the cause I'm leading is genuine and it benefits other people. You see, you haven't been in a situation where you have to sacrifice your own life interest for the benefit of others. Until you are there, you will not understand it. Somehow you get an inspiration and you become fearless because you are standing for the truth, you are standing for justice, you're standing for almost everything that benefits other people other than yourself. That is why we have people like the Kwame Nkrumahs and we have people like the Mandelas. All right? Otherwise, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be in that position sometimes. The victory belongs to them. The victory belongs to Ghana. And the victory belongs to rule of law, justice. No. That's the least of my thought. I'm focused on how I can get Assin North developed. The court can take its own course. I mean, as I said earlier, I have not committed any wrong to worry about what is ahead of in legal terms. No.
His lawyers argue that the application is to stay precedent in the High Court so that the Court of Appeal can determine whether or not the High Court was right to rule that Judge Equation's criminal trial be heard on a daily basis. A member of Judge Equation's legal team, Sami Jemfi, spoke to the press after the proceedings and said the defense team needs ample time to cross-examine the first witness and other matters resolved before the case is formally commenced. Meanwhile, the MP-elect for Assin North is expected to be sworn into Parliament today, June 30, after Parliament received the necessary right from the Electoral Commission on his election.
Yes, justice delayed is justice denied, but justice hurried is also justice buried. There are serious issues about the testimony of the first witness that the accused has called, that lawyers for the accused will require ample time to cross-examine. And it is totally unacceptable, in our opinion, for her ladyship to say that the cross-examination should be done on a daily basis and should be restricted to certain, limited time periods. We don't think that affords the accused, the re-elected member of Parliament for Assin North, a fair hearing. And that is why we are raising all these issues. And if you read the application for stay of proceedings, lawyer Chachuchi Kata, we cite similar comments which were made about lawyer Chachuchi Kata when he was being prosecuted, or if you like, persecuted in similar fashion. At the time, the President of the Republic was the Attorney General and Minister of Justice in the early 2000s. And these were some of the comments they made. And the issues were not addressed. At the end of the day, judgment was given in the matter when the accused did not even know that judgment was going to be given in the matter. His lawyers were not present and all that. It is that kind of kangaroo trial, that kind of, biased trial where things are hurried at the expense of the constitutionally guaranteed rights of accused persons that lawyers for Honorable Kwesi are trying to avoid.
This victory is a product of teamwork, but above all, this victory is a product of hard work. We put everything into it. I virtually relocated here for the past 1 month. Nothing mattered to me than this victory. And I'm happy today that we've seen the fruits of our labor. And so when I say hard work, I'm not just talking about working hard without strategy. Because yes, we worked hard, but that hard work was based on a superior strategy, a strategy anchored on continuous research, a strategy anchored on community engagements, a strategy anchored on solving community problems, a strategy anchored on a superior campaign message, a superior campaign communications strategy, and a superior campaign organizational and electoral management strategy. So that is what has given us this victory. But above all, this victory is anchored or has been anchored on a superior candidate. We had a better candidate, a candidate who was already marketable, loved sincerely by the good people of this country. And the electorate are very discerning, very intelligent, very wise, very courageous. And I'm sure you've seen that for yourself today. And they decided to stand by the truth. They decided to stand by justice. And it is their fidelity to the truth and justice that has birthed this victory.
The committee's primary responsibility is to thoroughly examine and assess the 10 party stalwarts who have submitted their forms to compete in the flag bearership race. This crucial vetting process will play a significant role in determining the party's presidential candidate for the upcoming election. In accordance with Article 10, Clause 3 of the party's constitution, the National Steering Committee, acting for and on behalf of the National Council at its emergency meeting held on Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, and upon further stakeholder consultations, appointed Right Honorable Professor Aaron Michael Quay as chairman of the vetting committee for the party's presidential election. The party said in a statement. Other members are Kwesi Amoakwata, Stephen Abankwa Sechere, Osei Bonsu Amwa, Lord Oblitekome, Frank Davis, Hackman Owusu-Ajiman, and Adelaide Ashiren. Osei Bonsu Amwa, Member of Parliament for the Appiah-Danquah North constituency, has been appointed as spokesperson for the committee, with Evans Nimakun, Director of Research and Elections, also appointed as secretary for the committee.
The 70-year-old who won the seat in the 2020 polls with 17,498 votes was kicked out of Parliament for having dual citizenship prior to filing his nomination forms. The Assin North seat became vacant after the Supreme Court ordered Parliament to expunge Gyakye Quayson's name from its records in a ruling on May 17, 2023. The Supreme Court ruled that Mr. Quayson was not qualified to contest the 2020 parliamentary election in the Assin North constituency after the time he filed his nomination forms on October 9, 2020. It found that he had not shown evidence of renouncing his Canadian citizenship and that the Electoral Commission had granted him permission to contest the election without this evidence. The court further ruled that his election as a Member of Parliament for the Assin North constituency was unconstitutional. The 7-member judge panel, presided over by Justice Jones Doche, retired in a unanimous ruling, stated that the qualification of holding only Ghanaian citizenship must be present at the time of nomination and not any date thereafter. A criminal case immediately commenced against him after he was kicked out of Parliament and is currently facing charges of perjury and forgery. The NDC filed him in the by-election in what the party says was to correct an injustice. A day before the poll, James Gyakye Quayson says he was confident of winning, emphasizing that his good works for the people of Assin North will propel him ahead of his competitors. According to results collated and declared by the Electoral Commission, James Gyakye Quayson garnered a total of 17,245 votes, representing 57.56% of the total vote cast. His closest challenger, Charles Opoku, of the New Patriotic Party, secured 12,630 votes, accounting for 42.15% of the total votes. Bernice Enonyam Sefenu, of the Liberal Party of Ghana, obtained 87 votes, which represented 0.29% of the overall total.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us on the Mother World Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are live on Pan-African television. This week has been dominated with not only discussions, but the elections of Assin North happened, a declaration was done, and ultimately the people of Assin North insisted on their choice in 2020. They confirmed the choice they made in 2020, deciding that Mr. James Gyekye Quayson should remain Member of Parliament for Assin North, no matter the situation he finds himself in. We'll be discussing that, but we'll be putting that together with a projection that has been made by Fitch Solutions. Fitch Solutions has been looking into the future, looking at the Ghanaian situation, and projecting who would most likely emerge winner of the 2024 elections. This is what they say. Turning to the 2024 general elections, we believe that the NDC is most likely to win. The rapid deterioration of economic conditions in 2022 and slow progress in the fight against perceived corruption in a July 2022 Afrobarometer study, 85.0% of Ghanaians believe the government was doing a good job in tackling corruption, will exacerbate anti-incumbency sentiment among the electorate. It continues. In addition, the IMF has voiced concerns over President Nana Akufo-Addo's flagship free senior high school program introduced in 2017, labeling it as poorly targeted. Potential modifications to the program in order to rein in spending could weaken the NPP's campaign agenda, increasing the chances of an NDC win. That is what Fitch Solutions, a UK-based research group, has been talking about. And if you know Fitch, you know they are one of the reasons President Akufo-Addo is always angry that he keeps downgrading the economy and it doesn't help his management of the economy. And so their projection is that the chances of an NDC win will increase as and when the IMF conditionalities take root. That President Akufo-Addo will be forced to do one thing he said he won't do. In fact, in 2020, he said they will not touch the free SHS today, they will not touch it tomorrow. Would they insist on that? And if he changes his mind, Fitch says it would move the pin closer to an NDC win. So that's our very first discussion. Assin North and the chances of the NDC as being forecasted by Fitch Solutions. And then we'll move on to the discussion on power. And for now, your lights are on. It would not have been if the independent power producers, those who generate 50% of the power that comes to your home, had decided to switch off their machines as they had threatened. They changed their mind at the last minute. They wanted 30% of the $1.7 billion debt that government owed them. Ultimately, the government pays something lower than the 30%. Raising 30% will mean the government will have to have raised $510 million. This was a government that was celebrating $600 million being given to them by IMF. What will they find? $510 million. Well, they seem to have given the IPPs enough for them to put on hold their threats. So the power remains on. But the question of the growing debt in that sector will never go away. Ghana Gas is owed a lot of money. The debt will only continue to grow. What is the problem? The business of just buying power and selling it. Why are we failing at that? That is the second discussion we'll have. And then I think I should have started from this point. Today is July 1st, the day when Ghana became a republic. It is the reason President Akufo-Addo is called president. Ideally, he would have been called prime minister, and then the Queen would have been our head of state. But in 1960, all that changed. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah pushed for a new republic, and it got it. And so Ghana selects its own head of state because of that. There are questions about why that particular commemoration has been sort of diluted by this administration. But come with me. It is my duty to remind you that today is 1st July and it's Republic Day, and we are celebrating 63 years of being a republic. What really does it mean to you as a Ghanaian, and what should it mean to us? So those are the issues we'll be discussing today. I already have in the studio my venerable senior, Alfred Ogbamey, joining us in studio this morning. Good morning.
Morning,
and nice to have you.
Thanks. Yeah. It's a pleasure as well to be here.
Fantastic. And sitting right by him is our very good friend, lawyer Appiah-Danquah, who is a member of the MPP's communication team and a member of Team Allen. Good morning to you.
Morning, Sena. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I hope you had a lovely week.
Yeah, I can't complain.
Well, I hear that a lot. Well, we'll also be joined by Comrade Bernard Mornah, who is former national chairman of the People's National Convention, and Ama Pratt, who is general manager of Pan-African Television. Once again, don't forget we are live on TV, on Pan-African Television. We are also live on Facebook, on Pan-African Television. That's the page you need to be looking for. We'll be live on YouTube on Pan-African Television. We'll be live on radio, on Radio Gold. We are also live on several other affiliate stations across the country. I'll be sharing them with you. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. I am Sena Nombo. Let's start with our very first discussion that has to do with the projections of Fitch and the Assin North win by the National Democratic Congress. Is that signs of things to come? Well, I'll start with my venerable senior, Alfred Ogbamey, on this issue. Good morning.
Morning. Well, before I even begin that topic, let me say that it's a sad day today. And I say so because I virtually grew up knowing 1st July as a holiday. In fact, I was born when it was a holiday. Grew up knowing it was a significant holiday where people do meet me there and all that. And for the first time in our history, the current president cancelled it as a holiday, and rather made 4th August, the day of the formation of the UGCC, a holiday. I say it's a sad day because if you trace even the issue of the UGCC, it is not the kind of party that any serious-minded historian or anybody with a serious appreciation for our history would say it's a predecessor party to the NPP. If anything at all, you can link the NPP's antecedents to the NPP of the North, and allied parties that came after the UGCC, because the UGCC happens to be the birth party of even the CPP. It also came out of it. In as much as many of the significant players eventually found themselves against the CPP or the Nkrumah group, I do not see the real direct antecedent, and therefore I felt that even if UGCC's August 4th was supposed to be a holiday, 1st July ought to be so. I pray, and it is my ambitious prayer and hope, and I've made it quite clear, I've written about it, that one of the first things the NDC would do within the very first week of being in power, I'm looking at 2-3 days, is to make it a holiday, as it used to be, as majority of Ghanaians. If you look at 1960 today, I'm very sure that majority of Ghanaians living now saw it as a holiday. It's sad because otherwise Monday would have been a holiday. Back to Assin North. I think that it's a bittersweet moment for a number of people. It's a significant rejection of the findings of the Supreme Court in a way that gave an impression that the James Gyakye Quayson wasn't properly elected, and that his record as an MP should be expunged from the record books. Why do I say so? The results of the election endorse the fact that he was deliberately chosen by the people of Assin North to represent them. It endorsed the fact that they knew that he was Ghanaian as of the time he was elected into office on December 7th, 2020, and that he had no other citizenship as of that time, and that as of the time they were electing him, they were very well aware that he was just not a Ghanaian. He was born in Assin North, grew up there, and they know and knew him as a member of their community. Unlike the candidates the MPP brought, who in as much as hail from there, didn't even have a franchise in that constituency. In as much as he was from there, he didn't have his vote, and therefore could not even vote. And therefore, they saw the supposed Canadian, as the MPP wanted Ghanaians to believe, that the man was a Canadian. He was not a Ghanaian. And that as of the time he was voted into office, he wasn't fit to lead. For them, they saw him more as their own, rather than what he'd been sold as. And I say it is a sad reflection because if you look at the Supreme Court's ruling, and there's been quite significant analysis of that particular ruling, and if you followed the analysis, for example, by Professor Stephen Kwekwasari, commonly known as Kwekwaza, you would appreciate the fact that there are questions as to whether the Supreme Court indeed did enough justice in coming to the conclusions they came to. Even if they were minded to follow more their own earlier precedent. I mean, the Supreme Court of Ghana is a body, the only judicial body with the capability to review its own decisions, change its mind, and direct the country forward in terms of its rulings and all that. So how the Supreme Court came to the conclusions it came to, without touching on certain key issues that led to the decision it gave, leaving room for much criticisms and room again for the constituents of Assin North to tell them in the face that, well, you have the power to interpret the law. Your decision works by virtue of our arrangement, but our choice is ultimately the decider of who we send to Parliament. It's mind-boggling to me. As I sit, I'm not even too sure whether James Jachikwesin's name has been expunged from the records, because the last time I heard of it, the Speaker was caught was expressing that as to how that ought to be implemented, whether it should be brought to the plenary, because Parliament itself is an institution of its own and its own mode of applying the rules and all that. And I'm wondering how they're going to apply it. Of course, the Supreme Court has ruled, but that process has to be applied by Parliament. And whether it's going to go by a vote or not, I don't know. But in terms of the fallouts from what has happened in Assin North, there are many. First is the fact that the people were bold enough in the multiplicity of videos they shot, TV stations they spoke to, media they spoke to, declaring that we're not stupid. And I watched one, they said, oh, we may look stupid, but we ain't really stupid. We are like a pig. There's a lady, and I love the way she put it in the fronty, that they may act like a pig that takes in fecal matter, but they also are wise enough to have their eyes open, and they know the decisions they made. So as for by-elections, since the MPP has promised them, and the president has told them that James Jachikwe will go to jail, they should bring it on. They vote for him 1,000 times. Someone will say, oh, but if he's jailed, the right to represent the people ceases. Yes, in terms of law, but that right would have to be exercised and exhausted before you can actually implement that position. And I'm sure, even if you jail him, there will be an appeal process and all that. And of course, once the people have told you their peace of mind, it tells you that they are bent on exercising the discretion they exercised on Tuesday. And it was quite clear. They just didn't vote him back, but they gave him a ringing endorsement. Percentage-wise, they increased it. Someone will say, oh, but if you look at the actual votes, there may be some reduction. But we all know that by-elections normally don't register in the same way as general elections. So that doesn't matter. The most important thing is that they gave him a wide gap. The kind of victory that says, go and represent our interests. And for me, the way they did it, boldly asserting that, yes, they brought us money, we took it, it's our money, we're entitled to it, we've used it, but we exercise our discretion. It's such a significant message they've sent out there, because it looks like politicians feel that it is enough a strategy to starve people, deprive them of their necessities, and when election is due, provide it. And they will fall for it. And it's been a practice. We've actually been falling for it for quite a while. But the 2020 election, the results, shows a certain deliberate choice of Ghanaians. That Ghanaians are wisely up. They are beginning to exercise discretions in ways unexpected. And what happened in Assin North is a fulfillment of that. Because look, the kind of resources the ruling party took there, it's amazing. They took so much resources in there that they forced the opposition to compete with that success. But the good thing is, the people made their choice, knowing very well that they were entitled to whatever they were receiving, knowing very well that they wanted who could best represent their interests to go to parliament and represent their interests, knowing very well that right from the day of his election, in fact, before his election on December 7, 2020, the MPP and some elements had vowed that they will have James Jachikwe jailed. And indeed, right on the day of his election, they sought to prevent him from being sworn in. But in a unique and in probably historic manner, having service delivered to Accra within an hour from Cape Coast. When I say within an hour, it was even within 30 minutes. Whether that service came by helicopter, by plane, half of vehicle, we know no vehicle can drive from Accra to Cape Coast in an hour. So I don't know how they could have gotten it. Maybe by helicopter, by plane, nobody knows. But it was so unique that people started questioning how that could have been achieved. except that it still didn't work. So James Jachikwesim took part in the election that led to the current speaker. And they are so aware and minded by the fact that since then, the ruling party and the government have made his life a hell by taking him to court on a daily basis, even when he appealed to the Supreme Court to interpret the law on whether he was qualified as an MP or not. They told him go back to the High Court. He kept on trying to file appeal, go back, only for those opposed to him to now go to the Supreme Court, for the Supreme Court to receive their petition and enjoin him for 15 months. At a point in time when the same Supreme Court had ruled in another matter that representation is so key to elective or constitutional democracy that the people must not be deprived of their representative. The same Supreme Court ruled on that and allowed Martin, I think was your former director of Mr. Kosa. That was the basis they gave. When there was an effort to enjoin him, that was the ruling of the Supreme Court. That representation was so keen, was so essential to democratic governance. In the same matter, some people attempted to prevent our MP. Peter Amewu, Jean-Pierre Amewu. Oh yes, it's Peter Amewu or Jean-Pierre Amewu, depending on his antecedents, which one you want to play. The same matter came up. That representation was essential. And yet, representation for a man who was elected on the basis of his people, and by they vindicated that fact on the day of December 7, 2020, was a Ghanaian. Wasn't keen enough for the Supreme Court to have ruled that early for us to have had a resolution of that matter. They had to enjoin him for 15 months. Sat at home, I believe taking his salary, doing nothing. He couldn't even pretend to be an MP because if he does that, of course, he will be contemptuous. He will be in contempt of the ruling, and then they would have gotten him. The young people would have gone for him, and he would be in trouble. So he sat down 15 months plus, taking salaries, nothing, only for the Supreme Court then to decide that we are going to give a ruling. And what was the ruling? Something that many people suspected, that they would say he wasn't validly elected, vindicating a certain perception of the same Supreme Court. Only for his people to say, okay, ruling accepted, but we will make history. For the first time in the history of this country, we are going to send a man twice to the same parliament within a term. It's never happened before. So, like or hate him, the people of Assin North decided that it will be part of history. They decided that they will send James Jachikwesim into parliament twice within a term. It's never happened before. And that is why I said there are too many elements when you look at what happened on Tuesday. In all this, one key thing that also struck me was the fact that the people of Assin North have watered down the effect of using juju, using religion, spiritism, and others on ordinary thinking folks or natives or Ghanaians as a tool to get them to abide by certain decisions. Why do I say so? If you watch most of the videos that have emerged, there are people who admitted that yes, they gave us some received more, some 200 cedis. Depends, some who were brought from other constituencies said they received 300, 400. But by and large, the minimum from the ruling government, it appears, was 200 cedis. And significantly, in areas where the thinking was that it was dominated by opposition elements, they were made to swear that you take the money and you go and vote, or you risk being jujued. In other words, kantam. And people made those assurances, but they still went and voted the way they wanted, in the belief that whatever juju or whatever will not affect them, because first and foremost, one person said, it's our money. My money is in there. Is either first he said, is either corrupt money, which we are all entitled to, we are corrupt, as one person said, or it is part of my taxes that you are bringing to me. So, in essence, I do not see how that affects me or that would affect me. And ultimately, what has happened is that they've made their choice, and I'm convinced that going forward, other Ghanaian societies will learn from the choice made by the people of Assin North, and they will start to copy, and they will start to believe that indeed, no matter the inducements you bring, no matter the terms or pledges you make, force me to make, the gods themselves are reasonable enough to know that election is an exercise of a choice, and that they, the gods, should not have a role to play in that decision, and that those decisions should be left to the individuals and not the gods. That is a message that I believe a lot of people will be taking from what happened in Assin North. To sum it up, in all this though, I think there are also certain key issues that we should not forget. One of them is the fact that at the last minute, there was a directive by the IGP, or a message, wireless message to the guards of the MPs that they should not carry weapons. I'm told their weapons were withdrawn. Every bodyguard had his weapon withdrawn with a belief that the police would take care of the situation, which they did. But it is also significant to know that despite that, we had cases of elements of the ruling party in security uniforms. I have seen videos, I've seen still pictures of one dressed in the usual national security fatigue, and another posing as a police officer. Virtually had a police, their uniform, their black, and their trousers and their boots and all. And the confirmed facts also about attacks, shotgun, in certain areas of the constituency. I actually even watched the General Secretary of the ruling party, in fact, complaining in a place that he deemed his own party's area of authority or support area, about shots that were fired and how the police stayed aloof to watch on while that was happening. Except that after that very same interview on another network, the reporter himself also confirmed the fact that his checks with the residents suggested that those who fired the guns were more likely to be the ruling party's supporters, which made me ask what they were doing. Was it a case of shooting to create an impression that the opposition had come to disrupt the process and all that? And probably that is why the police looked on while they did what they did, and all that. But this is something I watch on TV3. So I am saying it on authority. I saw the General Secretary complaining that people, they've come, they've fired guns, they've disturbed the police are watching on. What is happening? What is happening? This is our stronghold. What is happening? And the journalist asking, who did it? He couldn't tell. Then the journalist himself was asked, who were you told were more likely to have done it? Instead of from my checks and everything, it appeared that to be the MPP's own people. And I say these things are keen because you see, the focus on Assin North, the number of people who went into that constituency, the media presence and all, may have served as a disincentive to have carried on what some may have intended. But in the light of a general election, where the security presence is thinned out, and all, you ask yourself, what will happen? What are the potentials of that? So I think that coming back, those are issues that we would have to address. If I'm to conclude by touching on the Fitch solutions projection so that my other colleagues can come in, I don't think that it's surprising, and I don't think that it's going to come as a surprise to any serious political analyst in this country. Look, the general rule is that if by your second year, if you're going to lose an election, you get to know. By your second year, if you keep on having certain problems, you should know you're on your way out. The situation today is dire. Look, many people are suffering. Many are suffering. Even those who are well financially are suffering, because the more people in an economy face challenges, the more the pressure on the few who are well to do. Because this is a society where we all rely on each other. And when people are generally doing well, there's less pressure on the less affluent. So they tend to tackle those who are really down. But where everybody is suffering, things are not that well, you know that no. The situation is that. And for me, I've spoken to key elements within the ruling party who are friends. And they know. They'll tell Italy, it's not serious, it's serious. And indeed, one of the audios I heard from Assin North was about one of their chairmen who, before the election, said, was speaking to a colleague party person. It was unfortunately recorded and issued out. He said, look, at the end of the year, we know, in fact. I said, why? He said, oh, look, we made a man too popular. The chiefs are all saying they will retain him. Things have become difficult. So you know what? We better think of ourselves. Let's think of what we can get out of this election, and then think of ourselves, because I can tell you in fact, that was before the election. And indeed, in fact, it's sad because this thing came out, and I'm sure it will be some people might go after him. But the essence of what I'm saying is that, look, everything points to a defeat of the ruling party in 2024 if things continue the way it's going. And unfortunately, they are not ready to bite the bullet, to take certain decisions to reverse the path they are on. One of the things you cited, the report cited, for example, was a free SHS. Brilliant policy. Started. Every policy should have internally a review mechanism. So you should be able to know whether you are succeeding or not. Unfortunately, any attempt to even call for a review led to vindictive attacks on educationals, headmasters, and others, such that they were forced to keep quiet. Unfortunately, in implementation, you have challenges. But if you are not willing to acknowledge the challenges, you create bottlenecks, and people bottle up their feelings, and it generates anger and all sort of things. Most of the children went through the system. If you remember, there were times where feeding became a problem. Feeding is still a problem now. Headmasters are forced to sometimes accept budgeted items that have not been delivered. Half are delivered at the cost of food, and because they need the items, they accept it and sometimes sign on. This is not a mere allegation. I mean, Charles has said so. The government is having such a serious challenge that you would think that they would be worried about calling people on board to try and fashion out a way for it. Unfortunately, it looks like they believed somehow. It's sad because MPP, it looks to me, has become more like an electoral machine rather than what it used to be. The thinking now is, okay, forget all that. We'll win the election. We'll get the Eastern vote. We'll get Ashanti votes. Let's try and get somebody who will divide the North and go for him. So you have a situation where those in charge of the party now are shepherding a process towards getting the VP elected. Whereas the Allen side who are feeling justified anger at what is happening. And I pray they're able to resolve those challenges. But it is also not to say that the NDC should go and sit back and think that they won the 2024 election. That would be the most dangerous illusion the party will have. A wounded lion is a dangerous animal. Okay. And with the kind of wounds they've suffered in Assin North, you should expect the NPP to go back to the drawing table and try as much as they can. Because I do not think that they are focusing on the economy being their reason for winning the election. They are focusing on other things. They are focusing on creating enough, raising enough noise so that whatever we do to win the election, we can justify it. And if we can pack the courts, by the time you get there, we'll have legal justification as well. Okay. So it is also a message to the NDC to say, hey, wake up. Don't sleep. You've got to do 10 times more what you did in Assin North. Let me end here and let others come in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Alfred Ogbamey starting the discussion for us on our very first topic. The very first issue we are talking about has to do with what happened in Assin North, and we are talking about Fitch's projections. A few messages from those of you watching us on Facebook. Sad that side just don't understand how can a certain government decide for our national holiday. Is our history and legacy. Kojo Dyke is also joined. Is it Kojo Diche? I think so. Says, Sena, the MPP have borrowed money so much that even a parliamentary candidate they borrowed from Takwa and Swayem. There is Yusuf Mohammed who says, good morning to you and your panelists. Sena, the MPP failed to understand that Jeshikwe Singh is destined to represent the people of Assin North in Parliament. So there's no way they can maneuver to get him out of Parliament because what God has put across, let no man put asunder. They will still proceed with this conspiracy. I can assure them that MPP would be destroyed in the constituency. He sent that from Tamale Central. His name is Vision. Musa Batwa is also joining us. Sena, from the one, we're clear in our minds that we're winning the Assin North, but our challenges were whether the votes will increase or decrease because of the unprecedented monetization of our political system by the current Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government. God bless people of Assin North, at least. They've proven to the world that money cannot buy their conscience. Abdul Latif is also joining us. The good people of Assin North has ended the case by 137 for NDC and the outgoing administration, 137 plus the independent. Thank you very much for sending in that message. Janice Akwete is also joining us. Says, I'm very glad that Assin North has proven that the sovereign power of Ghana indeed does not only reside in the people of Ghana, as opposed to the people who hold the power in trust pretending to be powerful, but also shows that Central Region remains that region who really understood what political power is supposed to do for the government. and would make decision based on that and nothing else. On the issue of 1st July being scrapped as a holiday, if Ghana were a serious country, the academia would have reasoned against the bad decision by the president, only consistent with the MPP's disposition to undo everything on Sergeant for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah represented. Thank you, Dennis. Bozi Beto says, thankful to the people of Assin North. Is hugely humbling, much appreciated. KO says, just tune in only to discover the man I wanted to ask about was the one speaking. Sena, please bring back Ula Mangote. I hear you. Good morning to Ula, if he's watching. Our father Abduai is saying Nanado has desecrated the integrity of the Supreme Court and the judiciary in general. He determines the outcome of most cases. That's Arafat again. Says Dr. Baumia's Ghana's Charles Opoku will collect his money and chop and show him Pepe. So those are some of the messages that are coming to our Facebook pages. The Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, live on Pan-African Television, live on Radio Code. Lawyer.
So, once again, let me take this on to I wish my colleague panelists a good morning. Hopefully we can have a very good discussion, especially as Ogbamey has started. So I think the Assin North, on the Assin North issue, Assin North was a very pretty important election, as in especially flowing from what happened in 2020, what happened in Kumewu. I think in 2020, the people of Ghana showed that they have become very sophisticated, and then they understand the role they play, or the role they have to play in this fourth Republican dispensation. Essentially, in 2020, Ghanaians voted skirt and blouse. Essentially, they were telling that going forward, beyond the party, they were going to look at the person on the ballot. So in Assin North, for instance, they voted skirt and blouse. It was one of the skirt and blouse, specifically one of the skirt and blouse places where they voted for the president and then voted for Jachi Kwesen. Also, just about a month or two before the Assin North election, there was a by-election in Kumewu. For some of us, we thought that Kumewu being in Ashanti and being a stronghold, then people was going to win because of everything happening. Because you cannot pretend that we are in normal times. We are not in normal times. So because of everything that has been happening, some people felt that the NDC could pull Kumewu from the NPP. The NPP went to Kumewu and won pretty emphatically. You understand? And so with that kind of invigoration, the NPP didn't really do any introspection and went into Assin North. And what happened in Assin North, what happened the week before Assin North, what happened after His Excellency, the Vice President picked his election, the kind of communication that happened the week after, put to the fore some of the very critical issues, some of us, and a last section of the NPP, because people are unable to say it on they say they are undertones. Some of us have been saying it. It was brought to the fore. And for me, what happened at Sena North is a combination of a certain leadership crisis within the party that we've glossed over for a very long time. And when I take into consideration the kind of communication happening within the party now, I think Assin North, for me, has presented the MPP with an opportunity to really have an honest introspection and find an honest solution to certain critical problems that have split us for a very long time. Because you see, Machiavelli said that the end justifies the means. And so sometimes you can just focus on the results and say that, look, once I've gotten these results, and then I don't care the process. But mathematicians will tell you that that the process to get the end is as important as the end itself, because we are forging a political party, or we are building a country. You understand? It can't be an event; it's a process, and everything we do will determine how the process will go. And that process involves us. Let's say it involves people we didn't even see. It involves, when I say people we didn't see, people who've lived in Ghana and have died. I was born in 1979. It didn't matter. It doesn't mean that Dr. Buzia was the Prime Minister of Ghana in 1969. It's by the fact that I didn't see it. You understand? In the same way, some Ghanaians will come after we are long gone. And the actions they will take will be influenced by decisions we take here. And so the end, if you think very deeply about every issue, then that view that the end justifies the means cannot be true. That's if you are thinking deeply and are thinking about the well-being of this country, even beyond after we are long gone. Now, when we go to Assin North, I think one of the first critical mistakes we did was to run an election outside of the structures of the party. That's outside of the laid-down structure of the party. We are a party run by structures. So we have the national executives, we have the regional executives, we have the constituency executives, and that's the structure. That's the operational structure of the party. So we have a by-election, and the party, for whatever reason, decides to bypass the region, bypass the constituency, and run the election from the very top. Throughout the election, I didn't see Chema Kutin. As in, if Chema maybe has stand to be corrected. I don't know the role the constituency chairman and his executives played. I've actually listened to, also heard an audio after the elections where he complained bitterly about the fact that he was sidestepped. As in, well, we are here in Accra. We don't know the people of Assin North better than those there. And if you understand politics in this country, the dynamics of every constituency is different. And so technically, we have one on December 7, 2024, we'll be having 276. Maybe next year should be 277. I'm sure yeah. So we'll be running 277 different elections. That's what we need to understand.
76.
No, so 76 for the parliamentary and the presidential. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to say. So 277 elections. Okay. And the dynamics cannot be the same. For each of them, the dynamics are not. So, and that's why when you want to be a party that is well run, you need to have a very robust structure. It must have belief in that structure. When people, we first of all sidestepped that structure. So we took people there who didn't even understand the dynamics in the constituency. And that was telling in the kind of communication our president was having there. How can we go and communicate the way he did? For some of us who are MPP members, but we are first and foremost nationalists. And I think we should be serious. What is at stake is bigger than any one of us. It's bigger than our parties, bigger than our person. You see, it's important that people, our politicians, especially those who want to be president, need to understand that yes, we are multi-party democratic system. That's what we run. You'll be sponsored by a political party. But when you become president of Ghana, you are president of Ghana. You are not president of a political party. And certain communication must not come out of your mouth. You shouldn't go on any stage and say that I cannot work with, let's say, Ogbamey because he does not belong to a party. No. In 1992, when we decided to forge a fourth republic, and I know I don't want to focus much on that, but you see, the first republic in the first July when it was overthrown. So that republic was overthrown in 1966. You understand? Between 1960 and 1969, Ghana was not a republic. Between 1972 and 1979, Ghana was not a republic. Was that the 69 republic was also thrown away, overthrown. The 79 republic was also overthrown. You understand? But I don't. We will come to that. The point that in 1992, when we decided to undertake this new journey, you understand, and the document that was supposed to more or less supervise this journey was the Constitution. In the wisdom of the Constitution, for the well-being of Ghanaians to be best served, they need a system which would ensure that different players, different political parties, will be part of the government structure. Because Parliament, for all intents and purposes, is part of government. And that's why we say we are playing separation of powers. So government has a number of powers. You have the executive power, you have the power to make laws, you have the power to, even the judiciary, they are part of government. You understand? Now, Parliament is a critical part of this government structure. Because they are supposed to supervise, they are supposed to have an oversight responsibility over this, because we are running a system of, I think the best system of democracy is the system of constitutionalism. So we need to limit the power of the executive. And you know that parliament largely is multi-party. You understand? And that attitude of the president came to bear in this what's called time when, because of the sheer nature of our parliament, government had to find a way of building bridges, building consensus with people from the other side. But we failed. We failed to build that consensus, and that's why we are where we are. You understand? When the e-levy debate and all those are clear, you could see that this was a government that has failed to build consensus with the opposition, because in the mind of the president, he can't work with people who are not in the party. But it even goes deeper than that. Within the party, our president has failed to demonstrate an ability to work with people within the party who he feels do not believe or do not support or do not like him. But politics, like work, is not, you must be professional. You should be able to work with people you don't like. You must be able to work with people you don't like. So far as their professional competence is not in doubt, you must be able to work with them. And also because it's a democracy. And so we are the people who give you the power, the people. You, the president, the people chose you, but they chose other people. You understand? It is not up to you to say that, yes, you have chosen these people, but I can't work with them. Because that's the issue that happened in the focal issue. And we fail to deal with the focal issue. I said the thing, one of the critical things that is plaguing our democracy, or the ability of our democracy to work, is fear. We are afraid. We seem to be afraid. In this country, we seem to be afraid to speak the truth. We have a national anthem that says that, and help us to cherish what? And help us to fear but even beyond that, is that we should also
cherish fearless honesty.
We should cherish fearless honesty. Because unless we are able to be fearless, we are able to speak truth without fear, then this can be Kibimami Kebi. Because if we are going to be Kibimami Kebi and we are afraid to Kibimami Kebi, then the very system of governance we've chosen upon ourselves cannot work. So when the president, when Afoko was chosen by the people as chairman, and they used kangaroo tactics to subvert the will of people, because what happened was really a coup. We were too afraid to speak. And what happened because we said we were afraid, we were simply afraid to speak out. Now that is playing out. That is playing out because we went to Kumewu. One, we went outside the structures. The cracks in the party came up. Yeah, I'm just seeing this headline in the Daily Post. Go and form your party by Max Prospects into MPP aspirants. Now, and this statement was made by him a week before the Kumewu election. So we are going into an election. The vice president goes to pick his form, and he starts his tour, and his messaging is so divisive already. You have a vice president who is running a very divisive message. Vote for me because I'm a Northerner. Accounts don't like Northerners. Vote for me because I'm a Muslim. And at least I've followed politics in this country for some time. My father was a politician. And so I've followed politics keenly, even it doesn't. And this is the first time I've seen anybody running this kind of campaign. Vote for me because I'm from the North. I've never heard it before. People say things as in behind the scenes. But to openly pursue a tribal campaign, a very divisive campaign. And so his spokesperson, who is like, I am a father one. When you see the father, you have seen me. Because when Gideon Baku speaks, is the vice president speaking. He goes on a media tour. And his messaging is that those of you who disagree with him, because in every political party or in life, you cannot find any two people who are the same. Even twins are not the same. So it's saying even within the political party, the same political party, there are people who have similar views about how governance ought to be done. You can never find two people who agree on the same things. And two, I don't know why people have issues with criticisms. The fact that I'm in the party doesn't mean where my party is wrong in terms of its governance duty. Well, right now we are in government, so you are president for Ghana. You understand? So when you undertake certain policies and certain steps which would be inimical to the overall benefit of Ghana, then you must be criticized. Like NAPCO, you must be criticized. What is the wrong policy? It's a focus policy. If you are talking about job creation, then your focus is to use that 2.1 billion to boost small and medium scale enterprises, because that's the solution. SMEs, you understand? But you go and do NAPCO, and when you are criticizing, you said those who are criticizing and other MPP aspirants should go and form their own political party. That's very divisive. Yes, and you put the party in the position where we were going to be beaten in this emphatic manner. Because Assin North, for instance, is a swing seat. It's not anybody's stronghold. In the last election, it was skirt and blouse. So in what the president won, but the MP won. So mean that there was a real chance to annex that seat. What he told me was that probably there was an issue with our candidate in 2020. So yes, let's change the candidate. But we go to Assin North and practically at the results. Our votes actually reduced. Our votes actually reduced from, because NDC had 17,200.
Yes.
In the last election, they had around 17,500. Yeah. So even though there was a reduction, it was an insignificant reduction. It was around the same area. Critically, MPP's votes reduced from 14,000 something to 11,000, about 10,000 reduction. Yeah. Clearly, these were people who decided to sit at home and not go and vote. Why? Because during the last rally, you understand? During the last rally, before, so on a Sunday, the last rally before, and that was the rally that was going to usher us into battle. That was the last rally that was going to usher us into battle. You find our national executives who, I think, don't understand their role. They think they are working for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. They are not working for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. They are executives of the New Patriotic Party. And you have certain executives, not all of them, even at the constituency level. My own constituency, will come and then our general secretary, he's forgotten, he thinks he's working for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. They don't understand what is at stake. So they go and organize a rally and decide to embarrass and attack Alan Chemantin. Because, see, we have protocol and we have approved rules. The way and manner the vice president zoomed, I want to use, I can't find the right word, but the way he just interrupted the Alan Chemantin's presentation, actually walked through the crowd, they carried him, threw him onto the stage with his army. I think they're going to even stab Alan Chemantin, you understand? But what you should understand that for somebody who is a founder, has contested Nanado all this while, you understand? Actually, the only reason Nanado was our presidential candidate in 2007 was not because he won that election. Then Chemantin said, look, yes, I know we have to go for every run, but you know something, my other brother, go. So you must understand that this man has massive support within the party. Also, one of the shining lights in this government is Alan Chemantin, as in the kind of policies he's putting in place and the kind of message, the vision he's selling to the party people and to Ghanaians. But when you go and attack Alan Chemantin, people won't be happy with you. You understand? So you're going to a major battle, and during your last rally, you go and do this suicidal joke. You see, that kind of SRC kind of politics, it won't help us. Right now, we are doing SRC politics in the MPP. It won't help us. You go and say that you know something we do. No. It won't help us. They went to us. They didn't go. They went to sleep to enjoy. You understand? And that's what culminated in this emphatic defeat. Also, about the way resources were shared, as we see videos, and there are allegations. I hope they are not true. But let's assume they are true. All the 200 Ghana cedis, but they've even made a song. Now, you see, that kind of attitude shown by the people of Assin North should be the attitude of all Ghanaians. Because today we are going to talk about the Republic Day. And the fact of the matter is that we've lost three. So the first Republic was overthrown, second, third. What can we do to sustain this fourth Republic? To ensure that it does not go the same path the other three previous. And one of the things that can kill this republic is vote buying. When people think that because they have money, they can buy the will and then the desire of the people, they can subvert it. Because that's fraud. If you when you buy people's vote, what you're actually doing is to perpetrate fraud. Because then you win power, not because the people want you, because you bought it. So really, people don't like you. Why you think you bought it? Now, the attitude shown by the people of Assin North gives me hope. And that should be the attitude that the people of Ghana should show. Because what is at stake in all this politics we are doing, the only reason for me that you should do politics is because you want your country, for Christ's sake, to be better. Because when Ghana is doing well, when any political party is doing well, as in when any government is doing well, then we are all doing well. Yeah, you understand? And so, and that's why, if you listen to my conversation, I'm not too interested in, yes, I belong to NPP because I believe in the idea, but I'm not too interested in this and NDC, and we should criticize, but we shouldn't criticize because it is NPP or because it is NDC. We should criticize because we think the wrong thing is wrong. So if, let's say, a party I don't belong to are governing and they are doing the right thing, when that party in government, when they succeed or when they do well, all Ghanaians will do well. You understand? So there's an extent to which we should carry our partisan feelings or consistency or consideration. Now, what's it called? We are going into our primaries. In a situation where the vice president's strategy is that he's probably going to buy the elections. There are serious allegations in the north that any regional chairman who is able to give the vice president 100% in the superdelegates is going to get you a house, get you tractor, get you serious allegations. I know that because of social media, because of these phones, that's to be careful. Right now we are all CIA agents. The fact that we are all CIA agents now, because I mean, you be running your mouth and somebody may be recording you, but there are serious allegations that the vice president has promised. Now, already we have a vice president who is suffering credibility issues. You go to Google and then Google says the biggest liar in Ghana is the vice president. So I advise them, if you think you're going to take it now. Don't wait until after whatever elections. Take your share now. But you see, you can take it now and think about NPP and think about Ghana. Because we have an election to win. You understand? You go to Isuta, you go to, what's it called? Dobronso, and they are sharing fertilizers. Saying that those fertilizers are for the vice president sharing those fertilizers. They started their rounds. Vice president is sharing 200 Ghana per police station executive, 400 per electoral executive, 1,000 Ghana per constituency. Oh, is that election for sale? It's Ghana for sale. So you come to power and then suddenly, it's like you conjure some magic. And you see, the reason I say we should applaud the people of Assin for voting their conscience, for taking money and voting their conscience, is that this issue of Machiavelli give the cock some few, what's it called, corn. He picks it up and you make him hungry. And you see, it is killing our country. Because when you analyze the Fitch issue, two issues were brought up why they feel then this was going to win. I don't agree with whatever they are posting. But the reasons they are given, they are critical reasons. One, the deterioration of the economy. Two, the perception that we are not doing enough to fight corruption. You see, these are, the second issue we'll discuss is the IBP. The point is, we've reached a stage where right now, certain critical considerations, decisions that we have to take as a country, that for I don't use the word we've postponed, but we've been very comfortable doing things the way we are doing. They've come to the fore. Right now, the economy has come to the fore. It is clear that the way we've managed our economy, the way we've handled the economy since 1992, and not to use 1992 because that was when the fourth Republican regime began, or dispensation began. Clearly, where we are now, they say COVID and Russia. They say COVID and Russia did what? It exposed the vulnerabilities in the economy. Every time, all of us, MPP, NDC, PNC, CPP, we all talk about the structure of the economy, and we talk. But really, we've not really tackled the economy. Suddenly, those issues will come to the fore. So in 2024, We will want a leader who will bring practical and realistic solutions to the economic problems we are facing. This IPP issue, all this energy, almost doom so. It means also clearly there are clear problems that we refuse to solve. I know I've listened to people, and I've not heard anybody talk about the energy sector recovery program initiated in 2019. You understand? So we go and do a paper that attempts at solving the problem. And what have we done? Because per that policy, by 2023, we shouldn't even be discussing IPPs threatening to. But we are here. You understand? Because we are joking. The politicians in this country, we are joking. Because we are not tackling the real problem. All we care about is, you're going to, and also let me add this. When this bond issue came up, I was so disappointed to realize that over 80% of all the monies that the banks had, they went to buy government bonds. They want to give it to the government. Meanwhile, one of the problems that the private sector is facing, or one of the problems even plaguing this country, the fact that you have a private sector that is largely informal. We all know that the solutions to one of the critical solutions to I'm just wrapping up. One of the critical solutions to our economy is to deliberately build our SMEs. Because in 1982, when we liberalized our economy, so the economy was open, goods could come from anywhere. No government has actually taken any step to build capacity of SMEs, create a system where SMEs will have capital to do business on a consistent basis. And so you have a situation where the economy is not growing, GDP is not high. Two, because the private sector is largely informal, government is unable to optimize its revenue mobilization. And so what happens is that government does not have enough money due to the fact that government itself has failed to solve critical issues there. And yet, government always wants to overspend. They want to overspend. And that same issue is also linked to the corruption issue. Because government is controlling more than 90% of all the jobs, contracts, and everything. And once government has that crazy hold over all this, then corruption will thrive. We all know the solution. The solution is to take the economy from the government. The government, what business does you, the government, have in doing a business? Just that alone will reduce the ability or the incidence of corruption in the system. But we are running a system, we all know the problem. People know the solutions. But we don't have the will, the courage to solve the issues. You understand? And then these people come and buy our votes. So I took the board of Assin North. And for we in MPP, it is a wake-up call. We need, first of all, to be honest and address this lingering issue of the divisions in the party. That's our president. You can't look beyond the president. If he can't solve the problem, he has 60 months to go. But in going to choose the next leader, we must choose somebody who has demonstrated an ability to unite the party, to create structures and allow the structures to work, who most importantly can also unite the country. As who understands that when he's president, he's not president for MPP. Yes, the party may sponsor you, so understand that some party people will get some few opportunities here and there. But largely, you are president for Ghana. And your responsibility is to all Ghanaians to ensure that we have a system where we can make economic gain from our individual talents. He needs to understand that. You understand? And once we're able to do that, once we're able to create a strong party, a party a party with leadership that can bring all the various talents, all the various views, all the various people, individuals, irrespective of your tribe, your race, you understand, together as one. If we can form a party that can choose a leader who is able to deliver the most important mandate of all political parties, the ability to give good governance, then and then only will we have a chance to what's called upset the Fitch and what's called EIU projections. But the onus is on us, and we must not miss this opportunity.
Thank you, Appiah-Danquah. This is Kojo from Teshi. Kojo from Teshi sends me 2 tomatoes, a picture of 2 tomatoes, and then writes, "Good morning, Sena and your able dedicated panelists. Look at tomatoes 5 Ghana cedis. I had wanted to cook a wakpala with hot pepper this morning, but now my appetite is lost. This is where we have gotten to under this reckless Nana and his cousins' administration. May God save us under this tyrannical government. We continue to pray for good health and long life. I think the tomatoes will do. Don't worry. Let's put it on charcoal. It to do. There's Mystic from Gomwa West says, I hope Ghana is a democratic state. I also hope that in democracy, the voice of the people matter. The voices of the Assin North have spoken. So again, I hope that the court issue will also be democratic. If only strategy by the MPP towards their infamous slogan of breaking the 80 is all about coming to share money during the 2024 general elections, then they must learn from the people of Assin North. MPP claim to have the key, but the masses have changed the padlock. That's from Mystic from Gomwa West. This one is from, okay, I think I've read Visions on Facebook. There's also this one coming from, if you would help me very much if you stop calling the WhatsApp line. It doesn't help me. Maybe I'll get to yours. If you are trying to remind me that you sent a message, calling me will not help you. This one is from Alhaji Mumin in Medina West. Says, this is what people are saying about MPP at Assin North. Also, Republic Day is Republic Day, so the holiday must come back. Alhaji, thank you. And then Ametepe from Westland says, it always baffles me the way MPP people think. Their behavior is like they think for Ghanaians. Ametepe, thank you. This one from Keta, Stephen, says, good morning. To be frank, and I tell the MPP, the more they try to protect themselves, the more they humiliate themselves. This time is not about vote buying. Assin North has demonstrated that 2024 elections will be more than that. Stephen from Keta sent that one. There's this one from Savannah region, says, good morning. Assin North is a test for NDC to go back to the drawing board ahead of 2024. Inshallah, there's no doubt that the NDC is winning, but we must work together as a team. Power first before anything else. Thank you, Sumaila, for sending that one. There's this one also coming from Hadi Pagaza from Tamale. It says the NDC has demonstrated that with unity of purpose, we can do it once again. Ghanaians are looking up to the NDC for salvation. To the people of Assin North, the world, the people of Assin North, I apologize, I keep breaking because you keep calling the line, which is not helpful. The people of Assin North, the world says thank you. I believe that not even those who voted for the borrowed MPP candidate will go to hell. Their sins have been cleaned by those who salvage the constituency. I mean, there were over 17,000 people who stood up for Honorable Kwesi, the NDC and Madagana, thanks to the leadership of the NDC from the branch, constituency, regional, and national. And a special thanks to Alhaji ABF Seini. Well, if you join us, the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, live on Pan-African TV and also live on Radio Gold. Comrade Mornah.
Let me say good morning to you, Amma, Andy, and of course, Alfred. And then my apologies for coming in a bit late. I had a very, probably this dawn that we virtually finished. The Africa Youth for Sustainable Development had an Excellence Award night, and I was one of the recipients. So we were there until almost this dawn. And so I overslept a bit. More importantly, whilst I was sleeping and thinking about Amma, she was far from me. Thank you so much. And I need to congratulate the organizers for a splendid organization that they did. The first time I probably saw them was in the studios of Pan-Africa TV when they came and hosted by the substitute host of the morning program, Bless. And I was wondering whether they were up to anything. I didn't know that I was one of the shortlisted people that they wanted to award until later in the month. Having said that, it would be remiss on my part if I don't start with the Republic Day issue. I know that is one of the topics you've captured. But today is 1st July. 1st July symbolizes the full attainment of independence of the state of Ghana. As you are aware, whilst the last elections before independence were held in 1956, that was the independence elections. The declaration and proclamation of our independence was done on 6th March 1957. There was no election in 6th March 1967 or any election in 1957. And so it means that the elections that determined whether Ghana would become independent or not was in the 56 elections. And after the 56 elections, when independence were declared, you are aware that most of the laws, most of the decisions, most of the policies that Ghana had to implement, even as Kwame Nkrumah was Prime Minister, those decisions has to receive the assent and endorsement of the Queen and the royal family before they became law or became policies in our nation. So many of such, including laws that many Ghanaians considered were inimical, such as the Preventive Detention Act, the PDA. The PDA was assented to, not by Kwame Nkrumah, but by the Queen of England at the time. And these things made it impossible for us to run as a nation. And therefore, Kwame Nkrumah thought that, look, we were not fully independent. We struggled until on the 1st of July 1960, when Ghana was given its full bouquet of independence, where we could then determine for ourselves what we wanted to do and what we did not want to do. We could take the laws that we wanted, we could implement policies that we wanted to implement, and so on and so forth, without necessarily seeking approval from the Queen or the Crown. So 1960 probably was the climax of the fiscal independence that Ghana obtained. It is unimaginable that a day that actually brought the title presidency to us, which presidency has been used until Buzia decided that he was going to return to Prime Minister, right? And when Buzia returned to Prime Minister, the subsequent leaders also went back to the presidency because they understood the ramification of having a president and also a Prime Minister. As we speak, President Akufo-Addo is a beneficiary of the title president because of the events of 1st July 1960. For President Akufo-Addo to sit down and decide to caricature a day like this is to tell you how narrow and how empty, probably to say it in blunt words, our president is in the struggles towards the liberation of our country and our continent, Africa. Nowhere will you toy with a day like this, because this day is monumental and significant on the calendar of the struggles for our independence. Don't forget that when the independence struggle started, it was first to seek for representation, either in the legislative assembly, later in the executive council, and further now seeking self-government, and eventually we obtained self-government, and we moved on until eventually 1960. So if you don't understand the full import of 1st July, then it means that you actually don't understand why you are a president of a nation. And so that is why it is shocking. It is even more shocking because an avowed Nkrumahist who has been corrupted for the MPP was the one to go and lay the bill in Parliament for the day to be removed as a public holiday. And I'm terrified that the Minister for Interior, Ambrose Derry, who was one time a staunch member of the People's National Convention and a supporter for the party, and thereby that association, an Nkrumahist, would be the one to be used to go and table set a move in Parliament to ensure that some of the significant dates will be turned on their heads. And so today, we continue to celebrate the full attainment of our independence. Today is supposed to be a public holiday for us to sit down and reflect on what we did not do right or what we have not done right. Why is it? And you see, some of the things that we have not done right, I just heard Andy speak about it. And you know, it's unfortunate that we still have people thinking that the state has no business running business. At the start of our independence, it was clear that the state had to play a critical and central role. Right? Kwame Nkrumah was not of the opinion that the engine of a nation or a nation's economy is the private sector. Kwame Nkrumah was of the hope and belief that to run a nation you need a full vehicle. And that vehicle is not made up of only an engine alone. In fact, when you put the engine down, the engine will not move. And so those who will come and tell us that the private sector is in the engine of growth, you know they don't understand nothing. Because if you put an engine down, the engine will not move. You have to put other parts, other components together so that that engine will become functional. And so when we sit there and come and say that it's not the duty of the state to run business, we are wrong. Many of the states, and if you want, I refer you to a book, How You Chung. He wrote a book entitled Kicking Away the Ladder. And if you read the book, all the big nations that we call them today, they monopolized, they controlled and centralized the running of state until when they got to the apex, then they decided to start to even allow private sector participation in the affairs. You understand? So when you sit here today and tell me that it is not the duty of a developing country to take control of its institutions, you don't get it. It is the reason why. It is the reason why government will come and make a bold proclamation that we are going to do one district, one factory in all the districts. And the region that I come from, the Upper West region, where we have 11 districts, we have this zero factory. Because it's not the motivation of a private sector to go and put up a factory in the Nadoli-Keleo district where Sankana is located. Because other factors and other concentration, which is largely profit maximization, is what the private sector will look at. But the government will look at social maximization and the import of generating employment and others. Government has a central role to play in the running of business. Anybody that wants to run away from government taking center stage in the running of the affairs of this nation, we must as well auction the running of our governance to those who have money, so we can get Dangote and Bill Gates to come and take up the presidency of Ghana, because it must be run on the basis of business. And so it is that mindset that enabled our independence. And we must sit down today to reflect, where did we go wrong? And if we sat down to do the analysis on 1st July, to say that we attain independence in order not just to have political independence, as Kwame Nkrumah himself said, but he said, seek ye first the political kingdom and all other things shall be added on. What are the other things that we have failed to add on? The economic independence is non-existent. Social and cultural independence does not exist. Even integrity among the African people is dissipated. And so a day like this remains an important day in our calendar that I doubt whether 1st July will continue to be commemorative after Nana Akufo-Addo has left government. Even in the remotest case that the MPP is able to retain power in 2024. But I am sure that conscience will tell them that 1st July as commemorative does not sit well with the efforts, the blood and toil of our forebears that today we are. So I want to celebrate those whose decisions, whose action, whose toil, whose blood, whose sweat made it possible for us to obtain our independence from colonial rule, and to also ensure that as a people we will continue to respect the integrity of our nation. And 1st July cannot just be a secondary or a referral date. It is an important and significant date in our calendar, and I just needed to point that out. Having said that, I am entitled to now speak my mind on Assin. And on that, I thought that Andy has been a realist, except that he took this as an MPP campaign platform, where Alan Chiremantem must dominate. Who cares if Abaumia's appearance at your last rally before the elections was to bring down Alan? Who cares? That one is a case of dog bite dog. But Otherwise, it is exciting how these things are turning out. I would have thought that, look, the elections, no matter what the Supreme Court did, that the near complicity of the courts, the judiciary, in the wrongs of the executive has been righted by the good people of Assin. And it is evident that it is not what happens in the courts in Accra or in the courts in Cape Coast, but the court of public opinion, the delegates or the voters in Assin have proven that they are the true juries who can determine the fate or otherwise of their son. And they have spoken. So which other courts do you need to state who is right and who is wrong? And so clearly the courts of public opinion in Assin is that if you decide to take our MP away, we will bring the MP of our choice. It's as simple as that. And that no executive sitting in Accra or coming to our constituency to come and talk with such embellished English or Twi will determine whether we have to vote for a candidate. You know, Andy, I thought that your party, you know, as somebody said the other time, I love the idea that you bashed loyal ladies, or is it royal ladies?
Who bashed?
The MPP bashed, they had about 4 buses, U-turn buses of, as they said, beautiful royal ladies that were sent to Assin North, who had no vote in Assin North. Of course, man must not live by bread alone. So they went to spice their lives there. You know, and it was no surprise to me that I heard later that, look, in some of the hotels that you overbooked, some of the hotels that rooms were there, yet nobody could occupy. Some of these ladies went and then they crashed over their suitors, and then there was near beatings over there.
These are serious allegations.
They are no allegations. These are the realities. These are things that came out.
Serious allegations.
And so if you went for a by-elections, that was just a limited 3-week campaign exercise. And your focus is to go and see which pants you can remove or which zips you can pull down. Then it obviously that you were not in to win the elections. I'm sorry, but I just have to speak as blunt as I always done. So if you concentrated on those things, then I am certain that Kennedy, after Kennedy, will be smiling that he once wrote a book entitled Chasing Away the Elephants into the Bush. And he talked about how women were carried when the campaign was busy. And then that was the stock in trade of some of the people in the campaigns. And so if you reference Atake's book, and you see what happened in Assin North constituency, then you will say that, look, Atake actually understood what happens, particularly when they do patriotic parties going into elections. The issue of men or women became topical. And I think that that is one area. The other one that I think, Jachi Kwesin spoke. He gave messages. Can anybody reference any message that Charles Opoku gave throughout this exercise?
No.
One message. Because the only message I got him, or heard him anytime he was speaking, is that 27 June, no, Samoto Abana, Monshe Esoroho, number 1. Charles Opoku, number 1. MPP, number 1. That was the message.
Or no comments.
That was the only message that your candidate was giving. How do you expect? Look, President Akufo-Addo was not going to represent the people in Parliament. Vice President Bawumia, who will come and undo the message of Alan Chiremanteng, because they have to carry him shoulder high and then virtually storm the stage and then leave Alan Chiremanteng confused and perplexed. I loved it anyway.
He was well composed.
I mean, no. I mean, that's why I said dog bite dog. So I cannot.
It's not your business.
It's not my business. But your candidate had no message. He could not tell the people what he was coming to do. Even when Jachikwesi took issue on his person to say, look, we are going into a contest. And if it was the two of us, I already have one goal ahead of him. And so all I have to do is to protect that. Because I have a vote in this constituency. I will vote on that day. You can monitor my vote, so I'll vote for myself. Who will vote for him to become MP? The man could not say anything because his vote is not in the constituency. And by the rules of our elections, you cannot transfer your vote during a by-election. So you people decided to go and choose a candidate. A candidate who has decided that his fidelity of what do we call it, love, will belong to another constituency in Takwa. And not to the constituency that he has ever thought that he will come and contest. When it is time for elections, they say, oh, this man loves his people, so we are going to bring him, despite that he doesn't even want to associate with us. So you imported somebody into Assin North constituency and expected the people to buy your import. They prefer local food. So it was obvious that from everything, and one of the things that I even heard was amazing, that you people had to manipulate the delegates' album to favor Charles Opoku because what you wanted to achieve is that you needed a candidate that will come from Asin Breku, where Charles Kwesi come from, so that the votes in that area would be divided.
He ended up winning it.
I mean, how? So the tactic was completely non-existent. Look, Jachi Kwesi was talking about what he has done, despite that you have curtailed his powers as an MP. He was talking about things that he wants to do for the constituency. He was talking about how he has been available to the youth and to the entire citizenry of Assin. Your candidate had no message to give. Then if we will get a message, the message is coming from your Attorney General and it's coming from the President. And what is that message? Well, it was the same threat that you issued in 2020. Because I heard Kennedy Japan leading to the 2020 elections, saying on platforms that, look, if Jachi Kwesi wins the elections, they will stop him from going into parliament, that he will not perform his duty as a member of parliament. That they will take him to court, and then the court will ensure that he will not come to parliament. You threaten the people leading to an election. They defied you. They call your bluff. They said to hell with you. You did not take any lesson from the fact that your threat was called off by the people. And in another election occasion by him, you decided to go and issue even further threats. Who are you to come and threaten an indigene from his own home? So clearly, the people have shown you that if you have any power to threaten, go and do that one in Burma camp. You cannot come and do it in Assin North constituency. I would think that this should be sufficient lesson for the MPP. There are many issues. And you know, when you have a president whose stock in trade is to peddle lies in the hope that one day one of the lies will become truth, then you will have this kind of situation. President in the campaign messages said, why? The NDC imprisoned Ademosa Konde. And that the same way the NDC imprisoned Ademosa Konde is the same way they will also imprison Jachi Kwesi. For crying out loud, Ademosa Konde is my brother. I am not happy about the misfortune that befell him. But who says that I will be happy by his own conduct? Because Ademosa Konde, unlike Jachi Kwesi, who said, hello, Canada, I came and asked for your passport to be a citizen. You gave me. I have returned your passport and I want you to continue my citizenship of your country. So at the time he came, he didn't have his Canadian passport because it was returned to the Canadian authority. He had called for the renunciation in 2019, and before the elections, the renunciation certificate was given.
citizenship is not a by force event. If you go and you get citizenship from a country, it is because you applied for it. Now, if you go and say, I'm no more interested in that citizenship, that country cannot say that you are forced to remain a citizen of my country. So I don't get the common sense in the president's choice of message. The man says, I don't want to be a citizen of Canada again. I have returned your passport to you. You think Canada will say, no, by force, dole, dole. Parama, you must be a citizen of Canada. No. All they have to do is that they go through their records and say, okay, we have deactivated your citizenship. This is your deactivation certificate. That's all. In the case of Ademu Sakonde, he had the citizenship of Burkina Faso. He had the citizenship of the United Kingdom, British passport. And of course, he had a Ghana passport. So that anytime he was traveling out of Ghana to the United Kingdom, in order to facilitate easy movement, he tendered in his British citizenship, a passport. So he gets in and then, boom, he's a British citizen. He walks free and goes. No checks, no rigid procedures. Anytime he was entering into Ghana, he put in his Ghana passport. In that instance, he walks through. There is no rigid checking of the processes for him. Anytime he was crossing into Burkina Faso, he gave out his Burkina passport. Then he was allowed to go. Even when he became a member of parliament, he still thought that it was worthy for him to continue to keep these three nationalities. And somebody who followed him in one of the trips realized that when they got to the airport, this man did not use his Ghana passport to go out. He used his British citizenship passport to go out. And that was the beginning of the expose. Nobody knew about this. So for a president to go and stand on a platform, and I'm told that he is a lawyer of good standing, and not to understand that the facts of the, what do you people call it in law? The ratios are not the same. It is unimaginable. It's unimaginable that our president will go on the streets and talking like any one of us. He should be advised. And so they went there. They had no message. Their message was to attack Jachi Kwesi. And for me, you know, this is what I know. Jachi Kwesi was an unknown figure in Ghana politics. Even in 2020, he was still unknown. Until the MPP decided that they will make this man a hero from nowhere. Today, Jachi Kwesi and Assin North is like, hey, everywhere. If you just want, just go into Google now. As soon as you type Assin North, Jachi Kwesi, if you type Jachi Kwesi, Assin North, you have magnified the man and his constituency beyond his own imagination. So much attention has been brought into it. If his party ever wins power, I would think that he's one of the first persons that will be appointed. Because he has become so popular that you cannot do away with him. In fact, today, probably among the NDC MPs in the central region, he is one of the most important, if not the important, aside the minority leader. Because the MPP gave weight to him. So, in our language, they say that if you have energy, and you decide that you will suppress and submerge a calabash in water, you finish exhausting your energy, and by the time you stand up, the calabash is afloat. And Jachi Kwesi is like the calabash. And so President Akufo-Addo, who has become the master of lying, supported by his able vice president, who will go and take advantage to rather magnify the vice president campaign instead of magnifying Charles Opoku's campaign, has ensured that Jachi Kwesi is come back to parliament. I think that it is fair for the state to eat humble pie and to say that, look, we are discontinuing with whatever charges we have leveled against this man. So that otherwise, they will even suffer bigger humiliation. In the history of the Fourth Republic, that's my recollection, Jachi Kwesi has come out as the second person to contest in his own by-elections. Wayoseni, who decided to walk from one side of parliament to the other to say that he went and contested from NDC to MPP, went and contested in his own by-elections, but lost. But Jachi Kwesin contested in his own by-elections and won massively. This should be a lesson to President Akufo-Addo and the MPP, that look, no threats, no goodies whatsoever can change. Indeed, President Akufo-Addo, I thought, has been around for some time and should know this. When the time is up, nothing can change it. In the year 2008, what money did President Akufo-Addo, then candidate Akufo-Addo, didn't have? Anybody who was a watcher after his 49% vote that he got, that Alan Tremantin ceded victory to him. Then he became the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. If you took a dash down, as if you are going to 37 and you go to the Kawukudi Junction, you found about 8 heavy billboards. Right? Any corner of Accra, you found monumental, magnificent billboards of Akufo-Addo.
All the radio stations actually played ads of only
the MPP.
At a point in time.
He had money, he was in wealth. He lost the 2008 elections. It came to him like a surprise. In the year 2016, the NDC had all the money, so to speak. John Mahama was sitting president, but time was up. Nothing they did worked for them. And so it is time has soon. Nothing will change. So it didn't require Fitch. It didn't require EIU. It didn't require an Epson or Info Analytics or anybody. The time is now. Time has soon or time has soon. MPP will go into opposition. Whether the NDC will win or myself and Ama Pratt's party will come and win. As for MPP, you are gone. So I don't think that Fitch has come up with any prediction that is not known to the people of Ghana. I mean, what is it that Akufo-Addo is going to campaign on? And when they say that, look, by the governance style of Akufo-Addo, we are struggling to get a campaign message, they got a response. If you think that we don't have a message, go and form your new own political party. If that is the attributes, if that is the language coming from the New Patriotic Party, it even makes the campaign for 2024 an exciting one. Because if you tell me that because I said we don't have a message, we should go and form our own political party, and by the machination of President Akufo-Addo and his cohort, you go and win the primaries, you think that I'll come and campaign for you, because after all, I still believe we don't have a message. And if I, who said I don't have a message, also go and win, you come and tell me, why should I campaign for you? Because you said we don't have a message, so what message am I going to campaign with? So in all, it's an exciting thing, and I think that Fitch and all those people coming out to tell us who will win the elections, I can tell you that if you go to Sankana and we also look into the ground, we can tell you that MPP will not win. Time has soon.
Interesting. It seems you are clear on the slogan you go with when you form your political party. I'm wondering why you choose Sama to be the co-founder of the political party anyway. Let me read a few messages that are coming in. This is Mystic Wonder Avukor in Sama Dojiri says, good morning. It is an undeniable fact and undoubtedly clear that the reckless, treacherous, corrupt, Nanado Baumia-led MPP government bamboozled their way to power, propaganda, lies, and sloganeering, and the reality has exposed them. Then we went into Assin North by-election without a campaign message, but rather money-sharing, machinations, legal gymnastics, and lies. But thank God, the good people of Assin North have showed the shameless MPP government that they don't wash their faces upwards. Mystic, thank you for that message. Abbas Amogobo in Ofinso is also joining us. We thank the good people of Assin North for voting for NDC MP. This government has destroyed Ghana with nepotism and corruption. I wonder why we still have people in this country defending this incompetent, greedy government. That's Abbas Amogobo in Ofinso. Thank you very much for sending that. Tafai Namra here says, Sena, let me add what Alfred said. Let me add to what Alfred said. The next NDC government must do within 1 week. President Mahama should also appoint 20 Supreme Court justices and also appoint more judges at both High and Court of Appeal to dismantle the powers of the unanimous FC. Interesting. Okay. There's also this one. This is Dennis Yakwete. Sena, lawyer Appiah-Danquah should not venture in the tangent he hinted about how a republic should be construed to rubbish the scrapping of 1st July as holiday, because the word republic does not have only one meaning, whereas it means a political system in which the supreme power lies in a body of citizens who can elect people to represent them. It also means a form of government whose head of state is not a monarch. And there, the latter definition should be the focus. Indeed, only the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th republic should be construed within the meaning of the former, and therefore politically, and given our political historical context, Ghana's republic should be construed 1st republic, properly so called, and nothing else. That is Dennis Yakwete. Thank you.
Finally, I understood what lawyer was trying to do, but I think he himself corrected himself when he came back to acknowledging the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th report. So let's leave it at that.
Well, let's. Jonas says, since when did he find? Okay, okay. He has an issue with lawyer. Says, since when did he find his voice? Now 8 people were killed during the 2020 elections. Yes, Paul Afoko was sacked. Ahmed Swale was killed as well. JB and others. The question is, where was he then? That's Jonas sending that one. This is Fred in. Okay, Fred said, I think the law is common sense. Jeji Kwesi has voluntarily renounced his citizenship and physically handed over his passport. That's the symbol of his Canadian citizenship and allegiance, if you want, to Canadian authorities. After that, he came to fill a form and declared that he does not hold allegiance to any other country. And now AGs of Omofia says he lied. How? What a Ghana. Well, let's conclude with Ama. Please conclude for us.
I would like to start the conversation from, where Bernard took it from, and that would be a sharp disagreement with, what lawyer said about sort of, in other words, capitalism being the way forward, local industries, private hands, and I would situate it, and I agree with everything that, Bernard said, but I'll take the conversation just a little, higher and situate it on our campaign presently on the complete removal of taxes on sanitary pads, and the conversation that have followed on from our protest and speakers' stance on the issue, where you have the AGI come out boldly and say that they would also protest if that happens because they are concerned about local industries, And so then, of course, we understand where they are coming from. It stands to reason. When you look at it superficially, yes, local industries need to thrive. That's a fact. But for me, there's always a bigger question about policy direction of any country. What's your concern? Is it profits over people or people over profits? And for me, that's what it comes to. And when better to have this conversation but today, on a day like this? As a people, as Ghanaians, what are we concerned about? Is it all about profits that does not reflect in our lives, in our day-to-day existence, as a Ghanaian, by yourself? All this whole conversation about capital and capitalism and private industry and local industry and let's go, is it reflected in your life? Is it your reality? So there's a bigger conversation, and I keep, saying this every chance I get. There's a big conversation in terms of the ideology that governs us as a people that we need to have. And we need to be truthful, about that conversation. So for me, never the way out. Capitalism, private hands, never the solution to anything. Why? AGI was here when fuel prices were increased. AGI was here. We are still talking about power generation and all these things. All the effects that has on local industries. AGI did not find its voice. Did not talk about fuel price increases, did not talk about energy, none of that. But taxation, luxury taxes on sanitary pads. Suddenly AGI found its voice and says, we will also protest. Confused reasoning, confused positions, by extension confused all of us, in this country. Let me come straight to Assin North. And I had this very interesting analysis that I would just like to, facts and figures, they are always helpful. somebody was explaining that between 1992 to 1997, we had 5 by-elections. Out of those 5 by-elections, NDC won, all of those. The person extends the argument from 2006, says we had 2 by-elections. We had a split, outcome, NDC winning 1, NPP winning 1. The person says that in Kufuor's first term, President Kufuor's first term, we had 7 by-elections. Person says MPP won, all of those by-elections. However, in President Kufuor's second term, we had a split, 6 by-elections, NDC taking 3, MPP taking 3. That's the time of Muntaka. All of. Long story short, the person's argument is that by-elections, the minute you have them splitting, are a clear indication that opposition is about to win, and that our electoral history has always vindicated this position. Because normally, winner takes all with by-elections. The one that's the one that's ruling, the ruling government, normally tends to win by-elections for very obvious reasons. I mean, for the general election, you don't know where it's going to go, so people might take chances. But when there's a ruling, government, people tend to go with, the winner. So and these are all the facts. The person says, from our history as a people, every time you have that split situation happening with by-elections, you realize that is about to go in the favor of opposition. So that, for me, was very instructive, very instructive point of view, interesting point of view. But then it goes to what Bernard again was saying about how we don't need Fitch solutions, we don't need global info analytics, we don't need economic intelligence unit to tell us that things are not going well for the NPP. Let's go to the reasons why Fitch says, that the NDC is going to win the elections. I always like to do this by the book. So Fitch is saying that one of the reasons why it thinks that the NDC would win the next election is because of the deteriorating economic conditions in 2022. Again, it says the slow progress in the fight against perceived corruption. Then it says, and that's the most interesting one for me, the free SHS and how it was poorly targeted. Interesting. Again, like Bernard said, even if you go to the local person on the street and speak to the person, all of these are facts. We don't need anybody to come back and tell me that there's a deterioration in economic conditions in Ghana, that there's a slow progress in the fight against perceived corruption, or that the SHS poorly targeted, poorly intentioned. But these are the facts that Finch speaks to. Here's what I would say for now. My position is that presently in Ghana, the predominant NDC voters are sure that NDC is winning. And they know for a fact that they are going to the polls and they are going to vote for the NDC. The problem is with the MPP voter. I think that the MPP voter is unsure. Is it loyalty to party or loyalty to state? Those are the ones that are talking about anybody but President Mahama. If you hear that kind of language, that kind of reasoning, you know that, that's MPP, right? Those are the ones that are asking questions, but they are all the same. They are the ones saying, they are all the same. NDC, MPP, what's the difference? The value is the same. The NDC knows, anybody that's NDC knows that I'm going with NDC, I'm voting for NDC, I'm kicking out this government because it is incompetent, that's a fact. So, in all of these conversations, my appeal is to the person who says that I am MPP. And my question to you, as anybody that insists that I am MPP, is that, will your loyalty to your party, that loyalty that you feel towards the MPP as a political party, will that loyalty buy fuel? Would it buy food? Would it pay your children's school fees? That's the question that I ask. Because that's where we are right now in Ghana. That's the basic truth. I think that as a people, and again, apt that we are having this conversation on a day like this, we need to understand that we have a personal responsibility to this country. All of us. We have a personal obligation to this country, to ourselves, to the next generation, to our children, to the future. And we owe it to ourselves to do right by ourselves. Political party, like Bernard said, he could form one today. NDC MPP, have they always existed? No. But at the end of the day, it is Ghana. It is us. So for me, again, all of these analysis, you know, spot on, all of these arguments, spot on, at the end of the day, every Ghanaian going to vote, I beg, I plead, forget and vote for yourself and your country. That's for me is, because without that, we've lost the plot. Without that conscience, like that, you know, then we've completely lost the plot. Now, there's a lot of conversation around money being used to influence in Assin North. That, you know, I mean, we all know. I have always said that if it is the party giving money to its officials, those who are working for them, that's understandable. I mean, you have people sitting down from morning to night as polling agents. You need to feed them. You need to give them water. Those ones are okay. But giving money to an electorate to go and vote, I think that our politicians need to stop with that. Past history, present history, I dare say, let me forecast into the future and say that future history will tell us that nobody votes based on that. People will take the money and will still vote based on conscience or vote based on partisanship. It's one or the other. An MPP man will not come and take money from you, go to the polls and suddenly go and vote NDC. He will take your money, still go there and vote for his party, if he is partisan. If he's not, he will weigh his situation, go to the polls. And I dare say, I may be wrong, but I dare say that money and gifting and all these things play any role in how we vote. I don't think so. All that we are hearing from the ground from Assin North, they give salt, they give what? Cement. I mean, the range is amazing. The range of gifts is, I mean, from salt to cement. And everything in between there. We are even told of fish, that some give fish, right? It's amazing. And the money, 100 cedis, 200 cedis, 50 cedis, ridiculous, right? But I dare say that that is not what influenced the outcome. I don't think so. Because on both sides, it was done. The MPP did it, the NDC did it. So, I mean, unless we are saying that the one who did more is the one that would win, again, the facts do not support that assertion. The facts on the ground doesn't support that. So I would suggest to our politicians that perhaps you should stop. Because clearly that is money gone down the drain. It won't affect anything. It can't affect anything. You know, there's this video that made the rounds of a woman who was wearing an MPP apron. The woman was selling. She was wearing an MPP apron. And she was speaking to camera saying, me, vote MPP. No, the apron, they use my taxes to buy it. If they bring it, I'll take it, I'll wear it. But I'm not going to vote for them. And that's the Ghanaian. She will wear the MPP apron. Why? What would it do for her? When she goes to she will go and vote NDC. Why? Right? So I think that politicians need to understand that. And for me, that is at the basis of all corruption conversations we ever have. You go and extend money that nobody has sent you to go and extend in your mind to win an election. That is not the reason why you win the election anyway. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. But then once you've done that, then it is our taxes that would suffer for your folly. That was your bad decision, your bad choice to go and spend that amount of money that would not yield, you know, positively or negatively, clearly. But then because of what you have done, you come back into office and suddenly you need to reap that money that you have sown. Here we can come back to the same corruption that we speak about over and over and over and over and over again. So, I mean, this is what I would say. Ghanaians. And in this election, I even refuse to think of the floating voter. I dare say that all of us, you know, official and unofficial members of the Floating Voters Association are going to vote against the MPP, ditto. But for me, the person that needs to be spoken to right now, for all our sakes, is the MPP voter. The MPP voter. why are you voting NPP today, in 2023, after all of the conversations that we are having? A government in this country, in our very present past, gave out sanitary pads for free to school children. Free! It happened in this country where a government gave out sanitary pads free. Every school child take. And in this 2023, sanitary pads are attracting luxury taxes. Forget the regular taxes. Now we've added luxury taxes in the space of 6 months. Something that used to cost 5 cedis is now 25 Ghana cedis. In a country where people cannot have access to water. I spoke to a school teacher on camera in 2021, and she said, Amma, if any of my people says, Miss, I'm thirsty, I get sad. Because, Miss, I'm thirsty, where am I going to get water to give to that child? So in a country like this is the state of Ghana today. How can anybody be confused that time as soon or time as soon? How can anybody have any kind of reservation about kicking this government out and bringing in another government to come and do what is right by us? So for me, honestly, that's where the conversation is. It's about encouraging the average Ghanaian. And I think that it is our civic responsibility today. For me, it's not partisan anymore. It's a civic responsibility for us to reach out to as many people as we can. That please, where we are going, and the next conversation would even bring that up even more, where IPP is threatening that we are going back into doom so. Where we are now, and where we are likely to go, if this government continues, it is our responsibility as Ghanaians to save Ghana. Thank you, Sena.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amma. Well, just, I think 3 messages. First, this one is from lawyer Issa Adams. Says, in Assin North, the NPP didn't have a message. They displayed arrogance and political chicanery. That came through our WhatsApp platform. And then this one is, I'm looking at YouTube. This is Vincent Kwame Gawanu. Things are not well in Ghana. Senu Livingston, almost majority of Ghanaians are suffering under Nana Akufo-Addo, and we are about to die as a result of economic hardship. But we have faith in God to deliver us. The man is turning to God. Isaac Buemo says, I wish we can have, okay, he is wishing for a running kind that will come and clean the system. Duku TV says, please tell Mr. President to change finance minister because we, the youth, are suffering to do business. There's George who says, does the NDC really appreciate the problems they will face in 2025? And there's Francis who is looking for ambulances, some 25 ambulances that he says he's looking for. So those are some of the messages that you're sending to us. This is Justice Kmonyo who sent this in a bit earlier from Ayawaso West Wogon. Says, yes, the people of Assin North have spoken against all odds to tell the political office holders that no government can take the power of the people for granted and no freebies can change the mind of the struggling Ghanaian. I strongly believe the verdict is a true representation of the views of Ghanaians about the non-performance of President Akufo-Addo and Baumie's government. Thank you very much for sending in these messages. I'll keep reading as much as I can. We will take a break. When we come back, we'll come and conclude on the matter of power.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Hello, information. Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, hadn't it? Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I did call. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco fast floor. Trahuanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg going to catch an guy. Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. Yomo, the estimate is real. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you. Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done. Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
Hello, information.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the light.
Thank you very much for staying with us on the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are live on Pan-African Television. We are live on the social media platforms, specifically on Facebook and YouTube. You can watch us on Facebook, Pan-African Television. You can watch us on YouTube, same name. And I see a lot of people watching us on both platforms. Let me, just to start off the next conversation, and this goes to someone who is not here. This one is from a former General Secretary of the GCPP, who says, good morning, Sena Nombo panelists. I'm urging Comrade Bernard Pratt to give way to his daughter Ama Pratt and come to the north and do farming. I envy him so much. Now Seidu Nabil sent that to us, where he will do the farming.
Because now the north is divided regionally into 5.
Okay.
So which of the norths?
I hear the Yagba area is not bad.
That is for rice.
For rice alone?
Yes.
Okay. So depending on what you want to do,
yes,
you have to pick where to go.
Yes. If you go to the Tumu area, it's good for maize.
He's about to say something bad.
No, he knows. I think he knows that better than anybody else. Yes. So.
And he is into the industry. He's a farmer.
Just the replacement of Ama that I don't want.
Well,
because Ama doesn't use masa.
Thank you very much for joining us. For sticking and staying with us on the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We have to conclude. We have about 30 minutes to go, and we have to go through our last issue, which is the issue of power. Now, according to the African Center for Energy Policy, government is spending about $2 billion every year just subsidizing the power we are enjoying currently, because they have to pay for power that we are not able to recover money to pay for. And there was a clear indication this week when the IPP started threat. They started the threat several, but the threat was going to materialize on Friday. But government found some money, and government was supposed to raise some $510 million. They said they paid less than that. $10 million, not Ghana cedis, dollars. They paid less than that, but the IPPs have decided, no problem, we'll manage what you have given us, but we'll be back. So we're talking about the energy sector debts and the trust, because the trusts have not gone away yet, because what they've paid is not even up to 30% of the debt that is owed to the IPPs. This time around, let me start with Comrade Mornah before I come to Mr. Ogbamey. Comrade Mornah. And you have less than 10 minutes to do this.
Oh, that's way too much. I don't think that there's much to say. I was just hoping and praying that my dear lady who titled her book, I Am Not Yvonne Nelson, would have the courage and capacity to do what she did leading to the 2016 elections. Around 2015, she organized the Dumso Must Stop, which vigil we all participated. And I recall that then Alhaji Haruna of the NDC decided to participate, and he was nearly lynched in the process of wanting to participate in the demonstration, because he said that all of us believe that Dumso must stop. So it is not an issue that afflicts only the opposition at the time, which opposition was largely led by President Nana Akufo-Addo, and that the energy crisis that we were in were things that affected businesses, they affected homes, and they affected even those of us who were into the farm. And therefore, whatever it would take for it to stop, we needed to all join forces. I would have thought that probably at that time we should have been commending that young man who was of the National Democratic Congress, whose party was in power, and yet he decided to come and join the Dumso Must Stop. Unfortunately, the protesters did not take kindly. That will tell you how partisan the protest was and how narrow-minded the protest was. Today, the reality is that it is not announced, but we are facing some form of Dumso. In one area or the other, you can get 2 days light, intermittent light off. It's not as erratic as it used to be. But the real challenge is that we buy power and we sell power. That's all. ECG buys power and they sell power. So what do? It means they will make profit out of what they have bought before they can. ECG has a staff that it has to service. ECG has other overheads that it has to service. And so they just don't go and buy the power and say, well, we bought the power for 10 cedis, so we are going to sell it for 10 cedis. That will amount to a huge loss. And so if they buy power for 10 cedis, they may sell it at 19 or 20 cedis because other overheads will accompany it. And in selling it that way, it makes it even more expensive. So people cannot. Our nation used to rely heavily on hydro. And Kwame Nkrumah spotted this very early when he decided that he should deal with the Akosombo area. And some of the things that Kwame Nkrumah did, that today, you sit down and some people want to just obliterate what Kwame Nkrumah has done. It's painful. Look at the geography of the Akosombo and tell me Akosombo is in the eastern region. And just see how it's almost disconnected from the eastern region. There was a political and huge reason for which Kwame Nkrumah had to do that. I'm sure that we'll leave that debate for another day. But Kwame Nkrumah did that and cultured that place into the eastern region. Don't forget that Eastern and Greater Accra was just one region. Don't forget that Ashanti region, Bono, East Bono region, and Ahafo were one regions. Don't also forget that the now 5 regions of the north used to be called the Northern Territories. They were not even part of the colony then. So it took a lot of effort for Kwame Nkrumah to bring these disjointed groups together to come and form a country. People simply don't want to learn. And those who have even learned have decided that that knowledge is of no consequence to them. And so, clearly, the reason for which Kwame Nkrumah brought Akosombo Dam, and see, if you read about the Akosombo Dam and how it came into being, you will marvel at the master actfulness of Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah wanted the Americans to come and support the construction of Akosombo Dam. They were not interested. So he took a trip to Russia. He sent his ministers to Russia and did press conferences that the Russians are coming to finance it. And quickly, Kaiser had to be sent to come and do it. You know what that meant. And when Kaiser came, they looked at the total population of Ghana. They looked at the energy that we required at that time. And that was how come that Buzia then tabled that, look, Ghana's energy requirement was just 50 megawatts. And that we could buy a huge generator to be able to power. Kwame Nkrumah was going to build a 600 megawatt Akosombo Dam. And that he was engaged in prestigious edifices. And that it was waste of our money. Why would our energy requirements be 50 megawatts and Kwame Nkrumah will be putting 600 megawatts? He read into the future. He looked at the industrial expanse that he was bringing on. He looked at the educational infrastructure and many other things that were going to rely on electricity. And thought that 50 megawatts today, 600 megawatts tomorrow would not even be significant. The river Ankobra was earmarked for another hydro plant. The buoy that we did under President Kufuor when the water level had receded badly was earmarked by Kwame Nkrumah to be executed. In fact, equipment were sent to all these places so that it could be constructed, or they could be constructed, because hydro was cheaper. But even cheaper was nuclear energy. So Kwame Nkrumah got a nuclear reactor from Russia. And Ghana was destined to get our nuclear energy requirements for useful purposes by the end of the 1970s. In 1966, when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, the Americans came and asked Buzia to give them the Russian nuclear reactor. And Buzia handed it over, and they gave us a toy nuclear reactor, which is there, which cannot generate anything. As of now, we are still struggling to generate with nuclear. We are now seeking to get ratification from the Atomic Energy Commission so that Ghana can start the exploration of the enormous nuclear potential that we have. Why are they afraid that we cannot develop our nuclear for useful purposes? So if you take it from that angle, everything is evident that Kwame Nkrumah foresaw that there was going to be an energy crisis one day, and he was putting in the infrastructure to do so. Subsequent, hydro was not sufficient. Rawlings decided to start with thermal. President Kufuor came and decided that he would go and bring international evangelists to come and raise their hands at Akosombo to pray for rains to fall so that we can have sufficient water. That was the solution of President Kufuor to the energy crisis that we were facing. When President John Mahama took over, he said, no, this crisis has been on for a considerable time. He wants to fix it by ensuring that we are able to generate sufficient. But that generation will come at huge cost, because we are now going to deal with thermal. And thermal, you have to buy fuel in order to power. We even opened the floodgates for the IPPs. And in most instances, the IPPs are now the controllers, particularly of the renewable energy sector. Government has less than 30 megawatts of renewable energy, particularly from solar. The rest of it is generated by independent power producers. So when the government is behaving the way Andy wants it, government to behave, sitting back and allowing the independent power producers to take over the economy, you see what was going to happen? You see what was going to happen? They are not interested in whatever the government. Look, if they shut down and hospitals cannot get electricity, they are not worried. They are worried about, hey, their profit and how they will sustain themselves.
Comrade, clearly you need more than 10 minutes. But you have to learn from me. Because
if you want, I'll just leave it at that. But the bottom line is that I am happy that the management of ECG could go into closed door and speak to the IPPs and tell them the consequence of their cutting or shutting down their operations for 7 days. That is 1st July to 8th July. And what it will mean for the entire nation. Okay. And at the end of the day, they've been able to come to some agreement. How long are they going to wait? Because they are demanding 30%. Clearly, government cannot provide in excess of 500 million for them, because the government was laughing at $600 million from the United States, from the IMF and World Bank, of course, is located in the United States. They are laughing and in jubilant mood. So if you are asking for more than 500 million of that money or whatever money so that you can continue to supply, it was not possible. Okay. Whatever they have achieved, I am sure that the government will take steps. But those steps will mean that Sena, government is as usual going to impose further taxes. And I will not be surprised that if you are not careful, cassava that we're eating will also be considered a luxury commodity, where they will add more taxes for us to be able to pay to ensure that we overcome the energy difficulties that we are facing.
Thank you, Comrade. Charles from Petoi says, my salute to Mr. Mornah. You know, whenever I come across him on any platform, I will just suspend everything for that moment just to listen to him. It makes me so happy when he's talking. Fantastic man. This one is coming from Papa Bisu in Accra, who says, the MPP's bad governance end is near. It will surely happen in 2024 general election, already depicted by the people of Assin North in just ended by election. That memorable victory by NDC, which is in opposition, indicates the anger against the government and suffering majority of Ghanaians under MPP government, and therefore come 2024 general election, MPP will surely be voted out of power. I will jump to lawyer rather than Mr. Ogbamey. I will come to Mr. Ogbamey. Lawyer.
Yeah, so it's sad that as in 2023, we still have to be talking about this energy issue. And I know that my big brother, Mornah, won't miss an opportunity to hit those of us who are capitalists. But clearly, the solution to our energy crisis is in the deregulation. Because there are two strands. First of all, initially, during John Mahama's time, we had an issue with massive shortfalls in power generation. And as part of his solutions to solve the issues was in the deregulation of the generation, what's called the generation of power sector, and that's how come he brought in the IPPs. You understand? I know a lot of things have been said about what's called the take or pay and all, but yes, I know that part of the debt that has accrued, yes, part of it is because of the about $500 million that we expend for power that we may not currently be needing. But largely, the issue has to do, in my view, with the supply side too, because they generate. ECG has to supply, and then most of the losses we are incurring is because of losses in terms of commercial, losses in terms of technical. That's as a result of the inefficient manner ECG more or less supplies what's called the power. Because ordinarily, you bought, let's say, power for 100 cedis. Certainly, you sell it for 100 cedis. And also, if you understand how the PRC does their pricing, in fact, there is an allowance of about 23% to take care of some of these losses. So then, what accounts for the constant shortfall in the energy sector in terms of the financial side? What accounts for those losses? See, in 2019, I think the government attempted to find a comprehensive solution to these issues. Because even before this government came into being, as in there was the energy sector ESLA, which was collateralized, and then the money is raised as a bond and used to pay some debts that had accrued around the 2017 time. Now, in 2019, the government then undertook what they call the Energy Sector Recovery Program. You understand? To tackle comprehensively the issues that plagued the energy sector and find lasting solutions. Because, like my brother here said rightly, you are selling the energy for 100 cities. It's not possible that you are buying 100 cities, because we buy. ECG buys from the PPA and from all the people who generate, and then they sell. In fact, when you read the Energy Sector Recovery Program, serious consideration was had as to the tariff. The tariff being charged. So is it the issue that the tariff being charged as in they are too low and can't take care of the cost of the energy being sold? And an argument was made that if you compare the tariffs that we are paying to, so they brought some countries, and Ghana's tariff was even at that point high, and so there was no need to increase the tariffs as of that time. Clearly, and then they brought a solution. Is it cash waterfall something? So then the whole idea was that we are going to put all the revenues that ECG generates into a pool, and then find a proportionate way of sharing to all the expenditure that has been incurred in there. See, clearly, we are where we are because, like I'm saying, because of the inefficiencies. I can't believe that in 2019 we attempted this, and then the target was that by 2023. All the issues, the financial instability issues that was plaguing the energy sector will be solved. But it has not been solved because, once again, the PDS issue, and we should take our time. Maybe I think this 10 minutes, 5 minutes can't help us. It won't help us. Because the PDS issue also comes, because when the PDS, why was even the PDS formed? What kind of problem did the PDS stated the incorporation of PDS? It had to do with the supply side, to curb the massive inefficiencies in the supply side. Because when you look at the figures, the amount of money we lose every year out of losses, technical losses, commercial losses, the government agencies, have you considered the impact of their, I don't know the word, refusal to pay for the energies we use? The impact is having on on the sector. Because what we should understand is that energy is not like tomatoes. You go to the market and tomatoes once a day. These IPPs have gone for huge loans. You understand? The cost of generating the energy is so high, and so then, and it's not as if it has not been sold, because they keep on making this argument that the 1.7 billion debt is for energies that has actually been consumed. So what they mean that they've been sold. So if they've been sold, it's kind of way. You understand? It's as simple as that. Like I'm saying, we don't have time. Just to cut them, we've dealt largely with the generative side. You understand? And like I'm saying, I don't buy the argument of overproduction. Yes, maybe we are paying excess now, but eventually already you can make a projection that, let's say, in 6-7 years time we'll have an issue with the generation again, and we should be having serious discussion about how to keep on replenishing the generative side. We should be having this serious discussion about renewable energies, about forms of energies that are cheap, because in Ghana we are blessed. We have sunshine all the time. But we also have wind, and we have wind at a speed that means that we can easily also generate energy through the windmills. You understand? What serious policy are we driving to ensure that we also tap into the renewable energy? The supply side, what serious policies are we ensuring that all those losses, the technical losses there, because we can, it's like a wound. Yes, we have the debt right now, but if we don't take care, or what policies have we put in place to ensure that these debts, the recurring losses, the debts that we are constantly recurring, because there's nothing in place to stop future debts. So right now, yes, we've solved the problem. We've just postponed the problem. Yes, we've just postponed the problem. We have not solved. So for me, like I'm saying, I wish this topic had more time. But the same way we deregulated the generative side, we should seriously look at deregulating the supply side, so that at least the inefficiencies that's necessitating the losses as in the commercial losses and the technical side can be minimized. When they are minimized, when the ECG is not losing, we are not losing what's called monies, then the ECG will be in a position to at least keep the system afloat. You understand? Keep the system afloat.
Thank you. YouTube Courage Kotoka says, good morning, Sena. As a matter of fact, since day one, I have been saying MPP can't win Assin North by election because our God is a just God. Court cannot change the decision of the people. Then there's this one from, okay, it doesn't come with a name. I see the name on YouTube, Mash Taylor, who says, good morning, Pan-African people. Please, my dear sister, Ama, you are wrong. The 2020 general election was money that delivered me on seat for MPP. Assin North is a special place. Thanks for their firm belief in Honorable JQ. Please, my regards to the Chairman Mornah. He is my mentor. So he is saying that I'm on some of the issues. Anyway, let me go to my senior Alfred, because I know that you were in Ghana Gas. Yes, that was part of the comprehensive solution. Yes, and I
feel sad that we have to be discussing this thing. Look, let's be frank. We are not where we are because of just the challenges of supply and demand. We are largely where we are because of the reckless decisions this government made in the name of propaganda. As he himself said, lawyer said, there was a solution. By 2019, there was a solution. A fund had been created to take care of this crisis. In other words, a system had been created to generate resources and be able to pay off the debts over time. What did government do? First of all, why are we where we are? We are where we are not solely because of the losses in generation. We're where we are because of the loss of value in exchange rate. We're where we are because of the inflationary measures. We are where we are because instead of taking the money that John Mahama set up to pay, we mortgaged them, took loans, spent those loans, and decided to give those monies to pay. Where we are because we also decided to take certain propagandist decisions, to blame, take and pay for problems that do not exist. and to use them to shield some of the decisions that were there that we ought to implement. Why do I say so? For example, arrangement have been made for us to export power. And we've done export of power before to Togo, Ivory Coast. It happens. Sometimes we do import when we are down. Sometimes everybody knows we provide power to Ivory Coast. Facility had been taken to send power to Burkina. You inherited power. Loan was waiting. Continue so that we can sell. Oh, take and pay, blame, and all sorts of lies. When we are in a position to know that in a developing country like ours, no serious investor would put his money in the generation of energy without assurance of a takeoff. Why would he do that? Who's he going to sell the power to? I'll come and invest in Ghana, generate electricity, when I don't have a contract with the state to offtake. It doesn't happen. It has never happened. And this government has proven that fact by signing take or pay agreements subsequently. And yet, for propaganda value, for years, oh, take and pay, we are paying over 1.5 billion, we are paying over 1.5 billion. Eventually, when they were asked of the facts and they had to go and tell Parliament of the fact, it was far less. Today, that propaganda still even remains in the mind of people because of take or pay, take or pay, take or pay. Meanwhile, they themselves are signing take or pay agreements. He's a lawyer. And I mean, who would invest in an economy like this without assurance of a takeoff? When the state is the principal agent for taking off energy supply. Again, if as a government you inherited an assured revenue system, proper pricing system, and you choose for propaganda value to sit on same and accrue debt over time to the point of $1.73 billion US. Who are you fooling? Indeed, I worry much for the NDC in 2025. Because look, the NPP has mastered the art of dilly-dallying, delaying, using PR and propaganda without taking decisions that ought to be taken. And that is what this administration is doing. If indeed you read the statement issued by the IPPs, they said government gave an impression that it was engaging them, when in actual fact it wasn't. In other words, government pretends to be doing something while it isn't doing anything. It is just biding its time, creating the problems, and hoping that the next administration will inherit the problem. And by that time, also, but when we're in power, like they say, oh, there is no doing so has occurred in our time. But how can do so occur in your time when from 2,800 megawatts, power has been doubled to about 5,000 plus? How can you have excess power and have done so? The problem you have now is that because of the excess power, you've not paid. And that is why we were going to face this, because people felt like we were producing for and not being paid. But otherwise, and the moment what had occurred was that there was a shortfall in terms of generation. Then there were crises on many fronts. First, starting with the West African gas pipeline being cut off by accident. Then there were challenges in terms of the hydro because the water was down. Then Ghana Gas had to come on board, and when he came on board, it helped and all that. So by the time John Mahama exited office, it's created, and of course we had inherited these additional gas fields, providing for additional oil and all that. But so by the time he left office, virtually the problem had been solved. Yours was that you had too even much on your hand that you were supposed to facilitate by exporting. You sit on it, decided to play game, you decided to play politics with even the revenue stream in terms of the revenue pricing. In the name of politics, oh, we are TISU. So you take a margin of, knowing very well that it will come back to haunt us. And what is happening now, they found something for the IPPs. I don't know how they do it, but I tell you, sometimes I really admire the skill set of the administration and the finance. I do. Because you see, what the NDC can't get away with, the NPP doesn't get away with it. And I look, if it were the NDC, I doubt if the IPPs would have accepted what they've done. 1.73 billion US dollars we owe them. They throw chicken feed at them. Oh, we are negotiating with them. Everybody thinks they are not being negotiated with. They will sit quiet. Then they threaten something is thrown at them. Mark my word, nothing will happen. The next time they will threaten again, we will be getting close to 2024. By the time we realize they are out of power in 2024, then the IPPs will start threatening the new administration. That is what is happening. I keep saying this thing on many fronts. Look, some of the hard decisions this government ought to take in order to even access the 3 billion, take it from me, will not be taken. There will be pretense of discussions if you don't take it. You see, they themselves are talking about the need to review SHS, the free SHS. I will not be surprised if by the end of the attempt, it is still what it is. So that when you come and you review it, say, but we left it, we managed it, you created a mess. That is what is happening. Because if you look at some of the things happening, it defies reasoning. You inherited a fund, a proper system, pricing system. Once you gave free SHS, you could have maintained the tariff pricing and a number of things. You still have achieved your mission. People would appreciate it. Now you've created a problem. The problem is so huge that how are we going to get out of it? We don't have enough time, so let me.
Thank you. This is Kofi Nislegon. Always talking about Solomon Owusu. But this morning he says, MPP panelist, lawyer, and Solomon Owusu, and puts in bracket, I miss him today. I'm surprised. I always enumerating the problems we have. Is it not your government we should solve the problems? This. He said it's your government. Well, Ama, please conclude for us.
Yes. My brother who sent in the message about Mion constituency, it's a very interesting conversation, you know. And yes, sometimes it almost sounds naive to insist that money doesn't, you know, play a part in politics and all of that. I will say this though, sometimes it's the MP is stingy for me, more of that than actual money play. That. I insist. Sometimes it's our MP is stingy that encourages somebody or makes it possible for somebody to come in with money and suddenly win the election. Because the person then is showing that, unlike the one that you have that is stingy, I am coming in and I am not stingy. And I dare say that those are the times when money, you know, can win you an election or not. But it's an interesting conversation. I'm happy to, you know, have, you know, in detail. This particular conversation about our independent power, you know, producers and the 1.73 billion US dollars we owe them, you know, and their threat to cut our power supply, once again brings to the fore the incompetence of this government that we have. Actually, let me qualify that. The shocking incompetence of this government that we have. I mean, Dumso is in our recent past. It's in our very recent past. And this was such a huge topical issue and such a huge deciding factor of where our politics went. Dumso was so important to me. I remember those days I used to go on GTV's Friday news, and every day that I went, even the viewers are already waiting for me to come and talk about Dumso. Even when it was not on one of the, you know, it wasn't even a topic for conversation. Like I always came with Dumso as my topic. That's how important it was to me. So for us to have gone through that as a people, And for the NPP to take us back there, it's shocking for me. It's almost as if they won and they went to sleep, literally. Nowhere is holding. The center just cannot hold. There's no sector that is holding. Nowhere. Everything is in shambles. Everything is in shambles. And it's so, like, what happened? What really? Like, I need for us to have that conversation as to exactly what it is that happened with this MPP administration. What is it? Were they really that clueless from the start, or did something actually really go wrong? It's shocking. Now, I'm inclined to side with ASEP, or, you know, go along with ASEP when it speaks, and I wrote it down, when it speaks about basic thing, produce power, sell power, recover the money, you know, and how as a country we haven't gotten that right. So yes, we produce power, we are assumed to have sold the power, but somehow we can't recover the money. And for me, that's a big conversation that goes beyond policy and trickles down to me and responsible citizenship, you know, and my role in this dynamics and how it affects everything, you know, going forward. But there's something that my uncle here said that I quickly wrote down. He said, loss of value, right? And for something like the loss of value, perhaps due to inflation, perhaps due to the drama with our currency and all of that, I have absolutely no control. That comes straight to government and how government manages or mismanages. So yes, my whole conversation today was going to be about citizenship, you know, and responsible citizenship, and how the small things we do seeming to cut corners in our private companies, in our homes, can affect us on a national scale. But as soon as he said that, I was like, no, mommy, check yourself. There's more to this conversation. We are back to government and responsible governance. And how, again, it comes back to all the issues that we have. So in concluding, yes, both of these conversations are very valuable conversations to be had. My role to play, but then my role to play in choosing a government that knows what it is doing. Again, yet another reason why it is our civic responsibility to kick the NPP out. Thank you.
Look, Ghana has over $1 billion. If you go to the other sectors, you know, and it's serious. They've employed too many people.
Yeah. Who took over from you?
Oh, the president put in favor of this one. He put Appiah-Danquah. That was a favor.
You know what it tells me is that this man was grossly incompetent, that they had to seriously, look at the substitute, look at the replacement.
You need to understand what was
seriously. Because if you take his caliber, then go and look at the person they have put there. Master, they have belittled you.
Well,
I think so.
There are subsequent regrets, but
they have belittled. They brought your...
But Bernard, we are all paying for it.
You see,
we are all paying for it.
Sometimes when you think about it, and like she said, you wonder...
Andrew, you were not around. They went and put...
where they are. Poor people in many institutions, some don't even know what they are doing. Some are getting paid for doing nothing. Oh yes, some actually don't go to work, and you are creating a crisis that if you don't also solve now, will come back to haunt this nation. It's a pity. It's a pity.
Thank you.
My only problem is the IPPs. I mean, they better negotiate and start a proper payment plan before the next administration. At least, if it has to be quarterly, negotiate. This attitude of coming to tell us that the minister said he was engaging us, whereas he wasn't. Why wait to tell us now?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Hudube says the IPPs must take their monies now. Else, when NDC come back to power, they shouldn't dare to sabotage it. Matthew Paddy, my question is, what is government using the electricity bills that citizens pay for? And how come they are not able to pay the IPPs? There were two words that ASEP used yesterday. Yesterday when I spoke to the executive director, he used two words. It says waste and under recovery. Those were two words that he put together. That's that accounted for what we have currently. And no amount of temporal solution will suffice. Unless you deal with it, it will continue to go up. The debt will only increase. And he also suggested that the IMF solution, where they are saying just continue increasing tariff, it won't work. It won't work. Because yes, exactly.
Value. There's a limit. You've got to control the waste, and you've got to be also make sure that you are recovering a substantial part of it. I mean, just increasing tariffs. First and foremost, what if you keep increasing the tariffs? What also happens is that people, when they can't afford, would find other ways of surviving. That's how it is. So your net, you keep losing the same people, number of people going, because people will be going off. So we've got to think through these things.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And a big thank you to Comrade Bernard Mornah, who is a former national chairman of the People's National Convention. A big thank you to my senior Alfred Ogbamey, who joined us this morning. A big thank you to lawyer Andrew Appiah-Danquah, who also joined us from the MPP, a member of the MPP communication team. And of course, Ama Pratt. This is her home. So as for her, she does not deserve thanks. But a big thank you to your Chinese girlfriend. Oh, yes. Yes, a big thank you. Yesterday, I had to seek permission from his Chinese girlfriend before he appears on the show. So a big thank you to her. And a belated happy birthday to Mrs. Daisy Deborah. Belated happy birthday. Wife of Mr. Julius Deborah. Belated happy birthday to you. And condolences to Ivy. Ivy is actually a newscaster here at Pan-African TV, burying her stepdad today. So our condolences to you, Ivy. I pray God comforts you and the family. And happy birthday to Willie Kwa. We are done. My name is Sena Nombo. We are back with another edition of the show, same time next week. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a lovely week, a fruitful one. May you be able to afford at least food in the coming week. We'll see you next week.
Hello, information. Madam, me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, are they?
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I didn't call you. I just